Welcome, everyone, to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name's Jared Mello, and I'm the Shepherd of Black Sheep. Hello there to Dee and Snow Baby and Julie and Miss Kim and Mac. I saw up there too. I had just gotten distracted. I was watching some tickety talk about everyone's talking about that 62 million dudes thing that, or they viewed this site about essaying their wives or something like that. I'm not really familiar with the story, but I've been seeing a lot of people talk about it, and I just got distracted by it. Hello there, Giuseppe. How are you? In perhaps less controversial news, we'll be going over a little bit of the Tomasso. Sikorsky, welcome. And I guess my one thought on the 62 million views thing before we begin is, thank you, Julie. Hello there, Charity. Welcome. I think the biggest issue is the guys who do that kind of thing generally don't announce it to their friend group. Online, people have a mask, and so you'll see more of their real behavior online, like at least in terms of what they view, because they have a mask. It's not going to be exposed to the public. But I think in people's friend groups, it doesn't really happen that way. People are like, oh, yeah, by the way, this is what I did. But then again, like, I'm a little removed, I think, from most people. Like, I don't have like, I've always been kind of the march to the beat of my own drum kind of guy. And so I don't have like big friend groups. I've always been a big advocate of 4 quarters is better than 100 pennies kind of thing. So I don't really know. I don't really know what guys are doing out there, to be honest. And don't get it twisted. I fully well know there are sorts of dudes out there that are assholes. Absolutely. I know that for sure. Now, to the extent, I really don't know. But I do know women need to be careful. Absolutely. And I think, I mean, and most times there's going to be someone they know, right? Whether it's a partner, friend, even a family member, unfortunately. That's how that goes. And unfortunately, Dr. Salerno did a video about this, and perhaps the next time I talk to him, this is something we should go over. But he was talking about how these kinds of traits, they're just there from the beginning with many people. The people that are entitled, they feel like they're entitled to sex, that's there. And here's the problem with it, evolutionarily speaking. People who feel that way are more likely to get their genes passed down into the next generation. And strictly from a survival standpoint, there's going to be more of those people's genes around, unfortunately. So that's a big thing of how it goes. So we'll see. We will see how that goes. Rooster, welcome there, sir. Hello there, Jackie. How are you? That was a little bit of a tangent there, unrelated to the thumbnail in the video. But in the video, we're going to be going over Jen Koffendorfer's video about Tomasso. Now, I was watching some of this earlier today, and she defended Annie Tomasso pretty vigilantly. And we'll see what she does with Tomasso here. D-Dazzled, welcome. Jetta, welcome. Animal, welcome there too. Laura, how are you? We'll let some people come in here. As you come in, remember to like the video on your way in because likes are free. So spank that like button. 44 minutes till beer o'clock. Rooster has announced it. Hello there, Kay. How are you? Yeah, we'll see, Julie. I'm curious what Jen's defense will be, if she's even going to provide a defense. And just like with Annie, I think I would say many of the same things about Tomasso that I would Annie, that I don't think it's right to be condemning him. I don't think that's right in any way. I don't think people should be saying, yep, definitely him, blah, blah, blah. But that being said, I also don't think that it's as easy as, oh, he's clear, the end. No, I don't think that's true either. I think it's somewhere in the middle. It's somewhere in the middle until there's actually an arrest made. It's somewhere in the middle until they actually have a suspect in the case, right? That's what I would think. Thank you, KB. I appreciate that. Hello there, Craig. Nice to see you as well, sir. Charity, you made that sound so inappropriate. But luckily for you, I can be an inappropriate panda myself. So I approve, Charity. Uh, I'm having wine tonight while watching you. Yummy. Oh my. Sounds like a romantic evening in front of the TV. Hello there, Bethany. How are you? Hopefully things are a little better than yesterday, although since nothing's changed with it, I'm sure it's not that much better. But just know we're here for you, Bethany. We're sending good vibes your way. If you like owls and dolphins, hit the like. Amen to that, Laura. Amen to that. Also, super chat, super stickers, and becoming a channel member. Great ways to support the channel and buys Shadow the Night Owl here his hootie snacks. Yeah, it's a lot, Bethany. That's a lot. It's a lot to go through. But it makes you appreciate life, right? Hello there, Autumn. How are you? And for any newcomers that are here, I go live 5 or 6 nights a week, usually a little bit after 10 p.m. Eastern, to talk about true crime and current events. I use my experience with mental health, addiction, narcissistic abuse, and narcissistic family systems to give my unique insight on true crime and current events. I might also be doing I might add some daytime live streams as well at a point, or more longer form recorded videos. I haven't made up my mind yet, but we'll see. How about you, Laura? Things feeling better? Are you feeling better lately? You're yeah, I like it. The shepherd of black sheep does not judge. I'm doing good today. Feeling chill and more energized. Did a little workout this morning. Lego, what's shaking? Is Shadow out of hootie snacks? Looks upset tonight. What do you think about that, Shadow? Shadow's wondering what he has to do to get the YouTube algorithm back on his side. I kind of feel like there might need to be a big development in one of these cases for the YouTube algorithm to kind of wake up. Hello there, Autumn Elizabeth. Nah, we only started 8 minutes ago. Is anyone in the black sheep chat afraid to try and communicate with the death? Just asking. No, I don't think anyone is, Jackie. I think also what happens though, Jackie, is some people miss some of the comments as well. The only reason I'm not a member is I can't pay without my Apple Pay, and it's repairing. Yeah, I'm not sure how that would work, honestly. Well, let's see if we can work on Shadow's posture here. Posture is very important, you know. Make him look more alive and at him. The cult of Shadow, they say. Mystery Diva, how are you? Rooster. Rooster, you will scare her away at that rate. Shadow needs a girlfriend, an owlet. Yeah, I hear you, Autumn Elizabeth. Hopefully you can figure that out, because we would love to have you on as a member. And at worst, maybe the lords of YouTube memberships, when someone gifts them, maybe you'll get one. But all right, let's see what Jen Koffendorfer has to say about life. And Tomaso, D Dazzled says, I need a major distraction. Eesh, my daughter passed away April 1st at the tender age of 33. Well, I'm very sorry for your loss, D Dazzled. I don't know what happened, but um we send you good vibes though. It can't be, it's always a tragedy when that happens to someone's kids. Yeah, I think that's also a good point for everyone in the chat too. Just when someone doesn't see something, I know I miss chat sometimes, and so do the other people in the chat too. It's not something personal. I think sometimes people take it personally when not every comment gets responded to, but sometimes people just don't see it or things get missed. So don't take it personally if I or someone else doesn't respond. Yeah, so good vibes for Dedazzled there. Again, 33 years old. My friend, she passed away when she was 40 years old, 2 or 3 years ago. And the priest at the funeral said something I'll never forget. He said, when you're born, you get a birth certificate and that's it. But you're not guaranteed any amount of time with that birth certificate. So, yeah, you're born, but it doesn't guarantee you 80 years, doesn't guarantee you 50 years, doesn't even guarantee you 5 years. So that always stuck with me, because especially when people work a lot, you know, yeah, it's fun to work. I enjoy doing what I do. It doesn't feel like work a lot of times, which is good. But there's also more to life as well, like living life. Glad you're taking care of yourself, Bethany. Hello there, Tim. You're very welcome, D-Dazzled. The old shepherd of black sheep and the wizard of radical self-respect has a little bit of wisdom to share. But all right, let's get into Jen Coffendorfer here. Everyone's favorite. Charity says, we lost my niece at 33 in 2023 of fentanyl. We had no clue she even touched drugs. My sister is raising her 3 babies. Yeah, that fentanyl is no joke. Fentanyl is no joke. So many people die from that. Julie Bug's birthday tomorrow, April the 20th, 420. Where's Danielle for the 420 announcement? Hello there, Tina, and hello there, Jamie. Welcome. Make sure you all like the video as you stroll on in here. Shadow wants me to remind you all to get his Hootie snacks, of course. Yeah, I've never tried fentanyl. Back in my drug using days, I might have been spiked with it before. I just didn't know it, but I've never gone out of my way to do it. And that's even more scary to an extent, Dedazzled, because that can happen to anybody. Like anyone can die from an accidental fall. It's like a car accident, right? No one, like when someone dies in a car accident, no one thinks that's going to be their last day on earth, but for some people it is. Hello there, Lynn. Welcome. Smart move, Julie. Smart move. Got double Julie action, Julie Bug and Julie Reagan. I love it. Look at Jen Coffendorfer looking smiley today. Let's see what she has to say for herself about Tomasso, and I'll go on about whether I agree with her or disagree with her. Hello there, Teresa. How are you? Drugs have ruined a lot of people that I personally know. Even almost got me for a very short time. Yeah, drugs are powerful. Now, the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect does enjoy his supplements and natural things, but I do think like prescription drugs, hard drugs, you're not going to last too long on them. Your quality of life is going to really dwindle, unfortunately. Cat Lady, welcome. Oh, what do we got here? Wow. Wow has gifted 5 the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect memberships. How about that? So everyone should thank Wow, Life is Rough, for gifting 5 memberships there. That is awesome of her. And I should say, I assume her, I should say. But thank you very much, Shadow, and I really appreciate that. You are the best. Oh, got a Cat Lady got one. Let's see who else gets one. Zelda, how are you? The lords of YouTube random decide, not myself. The good old lords of YouTube random. Shadow and I know it well. So Julie Bug got one. Aren't you lucky then, Cat Lady? The first time you come in here and you get gifted a membership. How about that? The lords of YouTube random want you to be here, and I don't believe in coincidence. So Shadow and I, we go live here 5 or 6 nights a week usually. We go over true crime and current events. I do a lot of interviews about narcissism and talk to professionals like Dr. Peter Salerno, Dr. George Simon, Dr. Mark Eatonson, Dr. Z. And Wow, thank you for becoming a member yourself as well, of course. Wow, thank you. Yes, likes are free, so spank that like button, especially if you're feeling a little bit frisky. Vake, welcome. I agree, Mystery Diva. Like from V for Vendetta, they say, I, like God, do not play with dice and do not believe in coincidence. V for Vendetta, a lot of quotable lines from V for Vendetta. Julie is in the charity school of thought, talking about spank me and things. Oh my. Oh me, oh my. Tim likes it too. We already got 54. That's pretty good. For 17 minutes in, it's not too shabby. Don't think I can because my personal account is linked to a business account. How about that, Rooster? CPP Mama, how are you? Smart move, Laura. You tell them life is a big enough gamble. You don't need to gamble even more. Walking out your front door is a gamble. Hey there, Dana. Go from 0 to frisky real quick, huh, Julie? All right, let's hop into what Jen Koffendorfer, retired FBI agent, has to say about things. And the topic at hand is Tomaso Cioni from Italy, but been here for 20 years.
True crimers, welcome to Break the Case. I'm your host. I'm Jen Koffendorfer. I tell you, this was one of the toughest shows to prepare for. This show is going to be about Tomaso Cioni. I initially was going to do a show on the searches, what was and wasn't done in terms of the searches for Nancy, why some searches might not have been done, etc. And I'll probably save that because that is evergreen. I can do that at any time. But I was really stirred today when I was preparing to come on about something that's really been bothering me. And what's really been bothering me.
Before we get into that, what's really bothering Jen, this gave me a chuckle. Now, Charity McPherson can thank the other Charity for her comment. My husband is side-eyeing me. It's a different Charity. Charity Nick, look what you did.
Is the fact that Savannah Guthrie, in her pleas, combined with the local radio stations getting the first two letters. Recall those first two letters that Savannah Guthrie says is involved.
So far we have double Charity and double Julie. Keep up.
That law enforcement says is involved, that Harvey Levin gave a bunch of details to show how unique the words in those letters were to the situation there. In other words, inside information that only somebody in the letters could know, including what she was wearing, including the nightstand and the watch, and then also this broken floodlight, all these little details. And then you see the follow-up from law enforcement, of course. What were their actions? They took immediate action. They rallied the family. They got BAU to help with putting together a script for them. 5 different times they addressed these ransom note writers. Look, the Bureau believes they're true. I can tell by what their actions were after, and then, of course, from what Savannah says. So essentially, if you look at this, everyone, what has bothered me is this nexus to Tucson. A lot of people want to talk about Mexico. A lot of people want to talk about other places. But if you look at the nexus of where law enforcement has concentrated, if you look back at what the messaging has been from law enforcement, combined with the actions taken by the ransom note writers, by the abductors, those first 2 ransom notes, particularly targeting 2 local stations. It was 12 hours later they finally went to TMZ, when I think they didn't get the play in the media they wanted. This wasn't. I want to make it clear. Yes, do I think this was about money?
What is going on with Jen's stream there? Chair, member for 2 months and counting. Thank you very much, Shadow, and I appreciate that. And I'm thinking Tuesday or Wednesday this week. We'll see what is best for the most amount of people to do a members only live stream. So thank you, Cher. We appreciate it.
In large part, absolutely. But it went to hell when Nancy didn't make it. So now you have no proof of life. Now you don't have anything. You still decide on day 2 to go ahead and go to the media, knowing that law enforcement is deeply involved by this point, knowing you're not going to get a dime. But I think this really speaks again to the evilness and the torment, the personal nature of this crime against the Guthrie family, the continued torture by those last 2 letters so they could just draw out what they were going to do to her.
Now, this is something I agree with. I do think whatever happened is very personal. I think punishment for revenge for Savannah Guthrie. That's what I think.
Remember, there's one note that basically is a soft close, meaning, and we don't know what it said for sure, but it's what I call.
And CPP Mama, thank you very much for becoming a member. Shadow and I really appreciate that. It'll help us buy some more Hootie snacks. And you now have access to the members only live streams too. And as I was talking about before, I think I'm going to try to get certain people to share their stories sometimes, if they're interested in doing so. Or we can just talk about whatever people prefer. But thank you again.
Call a soft close. In other words, listen, if you don't do this, we're going to probably some horrible, torturous thing that they said they were going to do to her. And then in the second letter, if we don't have the money by the 9th, we're going to kill her. And then, of course, that's why you see the response to that. Listen, we know she's not alive, blah, blah, blah. So when you look at this, who would target them, right? Everybody is very convinced. And I am too, in a big way, convinced that the reason that money would have even come into play is because of Savannah's wealth. $40 million, Savannah's wealth. Okay. So when you look at Savannah's wealth, that was certainly.
So the question here is, this person to the left of Savannah Guthrie, is that Savannah Guthrie's husband? We've heard almost nothing about him this entire thing, right? We've heard literally nothing. I know I've gone over him a couple times. I've gone over his group, and I've gone over how his group was mentioned in the Epstein files. I did mention that too. But in terms of channels covering this, no one's really talking about it. And that is peculiar, considering how much speculation is around certain people, such as Tomaso and Annie. Not nearly as much speculation around him. And considering I think the whole point of this was to punish Savannah Guthrie or get revenge on Savannah Guthrie, well, a reason that could be happening is because of something her husband might have been involved with. That's also true.
The carrot that was dangled, and I also think maybe the anger of this person, because this goes far beyond just wanting money. What has happened with this family is far beyond just about money. That's my belief. In other words, I really truly believe it was a kidnapping gone bad, and that was the initial. I mean, how better to get somebody back than to take almost 1/4 of their wealth from them, right? To demand that. So I believe definitely money was involved and it went south, but because the ransom.
Yeah, and it's her second husband is the one that's involved in those groups. The second husband is Michael Feldman. He's the one that was a Democratic consultant. He'd worked with Clinton and Gore. And there's a group that he was a part of. I can't remember the name of it, but that's what he did. Now, the one thing I disagree with so far with Jen is I don't think it was a kidnapping for money gone awry. I don't think that's what it is. I think if that's what it was so poorly executed, it's out of control. But that's one of the big reasons I don't think it was that. I think Maureen said it. I think it was a hit. I think that's more likely.
Notes were identified as being real. Savannah says they're real. She cries. She says, listen, it's because of me, right? And she has a conversation with her brother, Cameron, and Cameron says, yeah, it's sorry, honey. So to me, they have so much more information. Does the FBI tell them everything or law enforcement? No, absolutely not. But there's a victim liaison person that has direct contact back and forth with these family members that they can go to. So in any event,
Miss Kim, I don't know where No Hype is, but I'm always hyped to see No Hype when I do see him.
What has bothered me is this close Tucson tie. And even though, as I said, we've focused a lot on Savannah, right? On Savannah being the catalyst in a sense for this happening. Not her personally, nothing she meant to do, but just her wealth, which she should just never obviously be ashamed of that. All her earnings and everything she well earned. People love her. Millions and millions tune into her every morning, and I'm sure many more millions. I haven't looked at the comparison numbers before this incident. After, I bet it's skyrocketed even more. And in fact, I read that Hoda's coming on in place of her normal male anchor. That also skyrocketed, and the thought that perhaps because of that, Hoda could even come back. I don't know what will happen. I'm just saying that that's sort of the buzz. But my point is, we would be, to me, remiss in terms of understanding this case if we don't understand that huge link. She is Tucson's girl. Nancy Guthrie is associated with Tucson. She's one of their most famous people that ever came out of Tucson. She wasn't just there for a few years. She grew up there. This family lived there for 50 years, everyone. I think that for many of us, I was totally nomadic. I don't know about you all, but nomadic. My parents, we moved a lot. I've moved my children 8 times before the age of about 14. So, you know, there's different family dynamics with everybody depending on their job.
8 times before the age of 14. That's a lot. A lot of times the families moved there.
Depending on a lot of things. But when you look at this family was not nomadic at all. This mother established this home for her children to be raised in. They had a father who tragically lost his life to a medical situation when he was in Sonora, Mexico. I know, Sonora, Mexico. Conspiracy theorists love to throw that all in, but it is true. It's true. It was in Sonora, Mexico. Which is, for many of you know, that Sonora has been mentioned widely in this case
I did see a channel do a side-by-side with the porch video and Tomaso. I do not think the person in the porch cam was Tomaso. Hate to break it to everybody, but I don't think it was him. I saw people trying to make some connections, and it looked interesting, but I don't think ultimately it was him.
At least one of the ransom.
I think ultimately, while the walk can be similar, I think the body type's a little different.
Note writers, I shouldn't say ransom note writers, one of the writers that's writing the notes that's saying, listen, we know where she is, we know who did this, send us a Bitcoin, or actually they just want a half a Bitcoin, about $34,000, and we'll give you the information. They want what's theirs. They're not happy that people don't.
Cameron didn't know before it happened. He suspected that it could have happened because of Savannah Guthrie. Because Savannah was saying, do you think this could have happened because of me? And he said yes. Why? Because she's a celebrity. I mean, not like a extremely well-known celebrity, but a celebrity nonetheless. And so it could just be an element of it.
Take them seriously, blah, blah, blah. They are the ones that mentioned Sonora. And of course, Savannah's father died in Sonora. So I don't think that at all that is by accident. I think those note writers, the secondary note writers, I'll call them, the ones that wrote the notes when Savannah went back to work, her first day back to work. Unfortunately, they had to deal with 2 more notes that TMZ talks all about. When you look at all of that, those people are some of the most heinous people that exist, because they exist literally to torture these families of missing people. I've seen it in all too many cases. I'm still going to do that Fort Worth case. I want to talk about a whole ring of people that do that torture and torment and write to individuals involved in missing cases, the family of missing cases. But I want to get back and try to stay on track. And the reason I say this is one of the most difficult lives I'm going to do, it's difficult because with most lives, I like to speak on facts and what we know. For instance, yesterday, I hope some of you guys can catch that. It's all about the DNA, the different labs involved, the fact that there's a hair now, which is just earth-shattering information for us to know on this. Because when you have touched DNA, it's much more problematic than a hair. Even without a root, that's going to be able to be traced. I just said we need to be cautiously optimistic because that hair possibly could have absolutely nothing to do with this, even though I believe, obviously, they've ruled out the people that would normally be in that house.
And that's the thing about this hair, too, by the way, is that they had this from the beginning. They just didn't tell us. So that kind of like dampened my spirits about it. I thought it might have been something new, but no, they had it for 2 months. They just didn't mention it. So it's like, it makes you wonder how many other things are they not mentioning?
And actually, very importantly, Nano says that, whether you believe him or not. I know everybody hates him and nobody believes Nanos. I've said it a million times. He's our closest conduit to knowing what law enforcement knows, because he is law enforcement. And by the way, he's in charge of the entirety of the investigation. I know I said I would have his quote saying he's in charge again, and that was very recent, just a couple of days ago. I'm going to get that for y'all. I keep forgetting to pull it. But nevertheless, he's in charge until there can be an absolute nexus. In other words, was Nancy taken across state lines? Did somebody come across state lines to commit this crime, or international lines? Until that happens, everyone, this is Nanos's case. This is venue. This is law. This is just the way it is. So I want to get back on, though, this Tucson nexus that even Savannah keeps saying. Everyone, I'm counting on, my local people in Tucson to help me with this case. That's where it lies. And
Johnny, absolutely correct. Right now, there's no evidence to arrest anyone as of right now. That is true. But Shadow wants me to remind you all to like the video because likes are free. So spank that like button or leave your DNA of choice on the like button. Say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat. There's also a fair amount of Pisces fish in the chat as well. And remember, super chats, super stickers, and becoming a channel member or gifting memberships are a great way to support the channel. And they help me pay for Shadow's Hootie Snacks. So you want to make sure Shadow stays well fed and not malnourished. Shadow's had some rough weeks back there. There was a Richens relative that was trying to poison him with fentanyl. And so I had to do a pass the basket for some Narcan. Shadow barely made it out of that, by the way.
So when you think about that, you think, who has this? I mean, a lot of people want to get $6 million. That's what the ransom was for. So that's not odd. But who has this desire to torment this family? Who has this desire, and what is the linkage there? I've had a lot of people on, including literally helped write Mindhunter series, was the partner of John Douglas, Greg McCrary, who, again, if you can watch that episode, it ended up being a two-parter. So we got him for so much longer. I think he promised me a half an hour, and we got him for almost 2 hours because there was a glitch. And I've got part 1 posted front and center right now, but it's part 2 that's really good, where he gets into a lot of information, and that part was seen pretty well. I'm going to put that part back up. Not just him, but a lot of other people that agree, of course. Mac agrees. Many other people that I've interviewed and had on the show that have extensive law enforcement experience and or psychological or psychologists that have evaluated this. I've talked to Gary about this many times, Dr. Picato, and everybody believes that there is a
Love to travel is very perceptive. And you know why? I changed my coffee today. And I usually have the stronger version of coffee. But today, not as strong. So now I feel a little more even keel, I guess, instead of a little more spunky.
nexus to Nancy or Savannah. And beyond just the targeting. Targeting to me is such a generic, ambiguous word. Obviously, she was targeted. There's absolutely, I don't think anybody left. Initially, there were lots of people saying random. If you look back, go back to that coverage, because people were saying, oh, it's random. It's a B&E. It's a burglary. No. Most of us that have worked these kinds of cases and are familiar with this sort of what's happening, we knew no way was this just some guy walking down our street saying, oh, this looks like a good house to hit. No way. So anyway, I think
No, I agree with that part too. No way this was random. I definitely agree with that. Especially when you consider that there was 2 days of Nest Cam footage on the front porch. If you believe that to be true, January 11th was the date a lot of people were thinking. But you consider that they went there twice. Very unlikely it was random in some way. Very unlikely.
Yawned. I still see some people say that, but I think it's just because they don't know the facts yet. So we're well beyond that. So what could be a nexus in Tucson? Who is closest held in Tucson? Savannah's been gone forever. She's been gone. She's been very much nomadic because of her job. A lot of I've learned a lot about, I haven't done a show yet on Savannah, but I'm going to. I'm kind of slowly preparing for it. I learned something new today when I was preparing for this. But I'm here to talk about the closeness to the community. Who is closest to the community? It's Savannah, Annie, Nancy, and Tomaso. Tomaso, who, by the way, apparently prefers to be called Tommy, or at least the family calls him that. So I'll call him Tomaso because that's his legal name, and he hasn't given me the right to call him Tommy. That might be something more familiar. My family calls me something other than Jen. So, my closest friends and my family call me something other than that. But I want to talk about I've already talked about Annie. I know many of you don't believe my thought process on Annie, and that's fine. But I 100% believe she's cleared.
And that's the only problem with it, right? I don't think there's any problem with defending Annie or Tomaso. I don't have a problem with people doing that. But then to take it to that next step of 100% cleared, I don't know where that's coming from. And especially if someone that's former law enforcement, like Jen Coffindoffer is, how can you say that? How can you say 100% cleared when there's no arrests and no suspects? Matt Murphy has the take that I would agree with most on this. And Matt Murphy said, no one's cleared. The only person that can clear anyone is the DA. Now, maybe Matt Murphy knows this because he was a former DA, right? But I like him. I think he's right. So I don't have a problem with Jen Coffindoffer defending Annie or Tomaso. I just think she goes too far when she says, yes, definitely 100% cleared. How can you know? How can you know?
Nothing to do with this. I think she is one of the ones that is so tortured. And if any of you have any interest, and you're welcome to give your juxtaposition if you don't agree with me. I did a whole segment on Annie, everything there is to know about Annie, inside now. But I want to talk today about her husband, Tomaso Cioni. So Tomaso Cioni has been here in the United States. He's from Italy, more than 2 decades. They've been married since 2006, so about 20 years. From my research, he's worth about just under $1 million. I'm sure a lot of that is because of the equity he has in his house. He is a school teacher. He teaches 6th grade biology and what they're calling AP biology. So advanced biology, and I believe regular biology as well. Again, he plays in a band, by the way. Let me show you one of his band pictures. He plays in a band. It took me a while to find, actually, and I'm not going to play it here just because I have so much to show and go through. But he plays what I would call kind of.
And here's the thing. I mean, I would draw the line at people harassing him at his house and harassing the entire family. It's like, yeah, I can say that I don't think they should all be cleared, but that doesn't mean they should all be getting harassed or something. And I've heard that is what some people have done, is harass them and make life hellish for them. That's not right. People shouldn't be doing that.
Grunge music, it's kind of loud. My niece plays this. It's actually, she's probably more on the rock side, but still that very, intense rock. is what I guess I would call it. And he has a band there in Tucson, and he has a drummer, and then he has another individual, Mr. Gonzalez, who is pictured here. I wanted to talk a little bit about him. Well, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to talk about first how heavily and deeply involved in this Tucson community he is. Again, he's a teacher, so that touches a lot of tentacles, right? He has all these students every year that goes through that. Now you're interfacing with all these students, you're interfacing with their parents. You can imagine, if you've done that for a decade, how many intersections you've had with other Thomasonians, or I'm sorry, not Thomasonians, sorry, Tucsonians. Sorry about that. So that's what we call people in the Virgin Islands, and I spent many years there, so that's why I said that. But nevertheless, Tucsonians, other people that he intersects with. This is not a family that kept a low profile. He and Annie actually kept a fairly low profile. But what I'm saying is, I mean, compared to Savannah, not compared to Cameron. Cameron's a total low profile. But they basically had a lot of tentacles. Look, she ran a jewelry business, runs a jewelry business where she intersects and sells jewelry, poetry.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm all for it if they were going to look. I think the problem is they just didn't know where to even start looking, right? Like, okay, like you got to have a search area to search. Now, you can do the optics of like a 5x5 square mile grid from the home or a 10x10 square mile grid. It could have helped. I agree with that, Laura. Mike, by the way, welcome, Mike. Mike's got a super chat here that Shadow appreciates. Mike says, big smoking gun is 948 garage door up, 1050 down. I think it was 948 up, 950 down is what I thought it was. And again, though, that's only because we saw that on her phone. Like there was the app in the phone that had that there. And I still don't even know if we know for sure if it was Tomaso or Annie that dropped her off. I don't even think we know that answer yet. Or correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Do we know? I've heard both. And thank you, Mike. Shadow and I appreciate that. Helps us buy some Hootie snacks. Everyone else, please remember to like the video because likes are free. And spank the like button or leave your DNA of choice in the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel here. We have a great flock of black sheep. Many Pisces fishes in here as well, if you're a Pisces out there. I've seen some Geminis in here too. But come in and say hello.
She teaches at the university. These are people that are very entrenched in the community. They moved only 4 miles, I believe, exactly, 10-minute drive, 4 miles away from their mom, Nancy, where Annie grew up. This is like, so for those of you out there, just imagine where you grew up, and I've showed these videos, and moved there at a very young age, and you spent your whole life in that same house, right? Your whole life there. These people were entrenched and loved Tucson. Teachers, educators. And so they touched a lot of people. Again, we're talking about how the Tucson folks, how this case seems to be entrenched with possibly somebody from Tucson, somebody that really knows this family, somebody that, didn't come from out of state or out of country, but that the person behind this is somebody so well entrenched with this family from Tucson, entrenched with this family. So what tentacles could be out there? And again, I'm telling you, this was such a hard life to prepare for because of this. I'm a fact finder. I look for facts. If I can see it, it's a fact. If I can read it and it comes from a reliable person and I can corroborate it, so a couple steps, it's a fact. If I only know it from source information, I will tell you all, this is being reported by this network and it's from a source. Now, yesterday's information, remember, was confirmed in part from the FBI. They almost seemed irritated about that lab stuff. We have been asking for 2 months. I was like, whoa. That was reported by ABC, but the quotes, and I put it in a tweet, front and center. The way that was worded was really negative against Pima County, to be honest with you. And again, not to digress, but to say again that I just have to say this again, it's absolute baloney, BS, that the Florida lab kept the DNA samples knowing Quantico had particular expertise, but telling all of us that it was because they didn't want to redo the work they had done in terms of the profiles on the families and those comparison. And that's when many people believed, and certainly everyone hoped, that Nancy was still alive. So that made sense to me from working cases. I talked about this, that whenever you had a lab person switch, it was horrible because you're starting.
I want to hear what she said here. I kind of missed it. I was paying attention to what Matt said.
Yes, but to say again that I just have to say this again, it's absolute baloney, BS, that the Florida lab kept the DNA samples knowing Quantico had particular expertise, but telling all of us that it was because they didn't want to redo the work they had done in terms of the profiles on the families. And
now, what we heard about this was this. Didn't someone say, correct me if I'm wrong, and we've listened to hundreds of hours, if not, probably hundreds of hours. Let's not get carried away. Maybe thousands. But someone said, you can't send DNA from the Florida lab directly to the Quantico lab. You would have to send it back to Pima County, Arizona. And then from there, they can send it to Quantico. Did we not hear that? I could have sworn we heard that. So let me know. I think it was either CC Moore or maybe it was Maureen.
Those comparison. And that's when many people believed, and certainly everyone hoped, that Nancy was still alive. So that made sense to me from working cases. I talked about this, that whenever you had a lab person switch, it was horrible because you're starting all over. Oh no, they want to do their own, quality control, and you're starting all over, and just time-wise, it was just bad. So that made sense to me. And I actually supported that decision publicly, very much so. Not now. Not now, when we find out that Quantico had particular expertise in an area and finally has this hair. This isn't a touch. It could be from anybody going by there and mixed profiles. Now, believe me, I believe there's a lot of touch DNA. I think there's so much other DNA. There's 5 other labs involved, again, according to ABC's reporting from their source. Everyone, if that is accurate, there's so much DNA. And actually, Nanos mentions that on one of his lives, or not lives, one of his interviews. I need to get that snippet up too. I'm drowning in Nanos, what he has and hasn't said. And yes, he discredits himself often, but I'm telling you, in this particular case, I think there's more DNA for sure. And now we know a hair is the key if the hair really belongs to somebody involved. That's the kicker. But nevertheless, for those of you who are just joining, I did a whole live on Annie. I have made it crystal clear my belief that Annie and Tomaso did not murder Nancy Guthrie, did not abduct Nancy Guthrie, did not otherwise harm Nancy Guthrie. And I have said, why? Show me one fact. And that's been the difficult part of preparing for this live. I mean, I scoured everything. What is one fact? You know what people like to say?
And I guess the big part about what CC said on Brian Hinton was, okay, well, you send it back to Pima County, then you send it to Quantico from Pima County. Do they think it's going to be a problem? Would it injure the sample in some way or contaminate it? Maybe. So I'm trying to think, like, what would be the reasoning why they wouldn't just send it back through those steps? We didn't get an answer before, right? I think it was just timing. Like, the only reason against it was time. But considering now that was, what, 70 something days ago now? Well, turns out those time constraints weren't really a thing at this point, right? So at this point, try to get any DNA you can tested that isn't Nancy Guthrie's. What do you have to lose from doing that? I would say nothing. And to be clear also, I'm not accusing Tomasso or Annie of anything. I'm not for that at all. I'm only saying that it's too far to say they're all just completely cleared either. And I'm only saying that because there's no arrests. There's no suspects, there's no arrests. So, and only the DA can clear someone. That's ultimately why I'm saying that.
Okay. And I'm going to do a demonstration to show you how this is totally normal, but not today, on another one. But I'm going to do a demonstration that brings home the garbage that's out there. Just like when people tried to say that Celeste Rivas wasn't dismembered. Whenever something like that comes in, what a good investigator will do is they will try to mimic that situation and see if it's even plausible. It wasn't plausible. When everybody was fighting all of that, it was clear, you know, I understand her remains weighed somewhere around 70 to 75 pounds when they were found because of all the deterioration of bone and of flesh and everything that was gone. But she was just over 100 pounds, 105 to 110. I've seen different reports on how much she weighed, about 5'1" to 5'2", exactly my dimensions. And that's why I've tried to fold myself up. I had my husband try to put me in a bag. None of that was going to work. And then, of course, finally it came out in the autopsy. She was dismembered. It's the same with this. I'm going to do a video to demonstrate how something people are saying is odd isn't odd, but that's for another day. I want to keep on this about Tomasso and Annie. Or not Annie. I already did Annie. I'm going to stick on Tomasso. Look, Tomasso looks the part. I swear to goodness, I think that that is a big reason why people just want to blame Tomasso. They think, some people might think he looks really handsome, like his.
I mean, I think the reason people are saying it is because usually these kinds of things, it's someone they know. It's someone they know or a family member. And I've heard disputes about, well, what kind of victim is it? Who is it usually when it's a grandmother like this? Often it can be a disturbed son, often, and of which Tomasso wouldn't be that in this case. But it's just usually someone that you know. Like, generally, these things are not random. That's more of a rarity that it would be random. And to which I agree. I don't think it was random. So if it's not random, what does that mean? It means that someone that knows Nancy either did it themselves or hired someone to do it. That's what it means. But please remember to like the video. Likes are free. So spank that like button or leave your DNA of choice on the like button. I was going to expand on what kind of DNA, but I will not. And say hello to the flock of black sheep here in the live chat. A lot of Pisces fish in here too. And everyone should give Rooster a cheers. It is officially beer o'clock.
Wife, Annie. And some people might think he looks ominous. He has an ominous look about him. He certainly isn't porch guy, everyone. and I don't want to click because people get irritated when I do the clicking, but I have a side by side of the photo of Porch Guy and Tomaso on here that I could get. I am limited to how many I can have on here, but essentially, look at these eyebrows. These are not those thin eyebrows. Look at how far down the hair comes. This is a young person that's Porch Guy. And what I continue seeing, no matter what people are looking at, people want to say that Tomaso walks, hangs out, is like Porch Guy. It's so absurd to me. It's so absurd to me. But nevertheless, people want to say that that's a fact, that he's Porch Guy. Yes, it's still out there, that he's Porch Guy.
Yeah, and it's certainly not a fact that Tomaso is Porch Guy. I think Tomaso's taller. I do not think Tomaso is the person on the porch. I mean, think about this too. How brazen would Tomaso have to be the person on the porch and then doing all of this too? Like, that would be wild.
And it's just, there is no physical corroboration when you look at Porch Guy's face that we can see, when you look at Porch Guy's mannerisms, when you look at how he walks compared to Tomaso. There's nothing there, everyone. There's just nothing there to compare. People want to say that he is involved because, and literally this is all they have, because he was the last to see Nancy. Well, let's be clear. He was not the last to see Nancy. This is who was the last to see Nancy. So when I keep seeing that, I am, he was the last to see Nancy. No, Porch Guy, minimally, and likely others were the last to see Nancy alive. So let's think about another thing. Why do other people think that Tomaso is somehow involved in this? They look at statistics. I look at statistics. I'm huge into statistics, but we're going to have Robin Drake on here, and he is the statistic master. I can't wait for that. But they say, statistically speaking, in a case, well, they try to say in a statistically speaking about elderly abduction that it's the family. That's just false. Anybody saying that, everyone, that is false. Do you realize the small amount of stats on an elderly abduction like this? I have absolutely perused all of the cases that have anything close to this type of case. There's not much close. There was a woman in her 60s that some people are trying to say is related. I don't think it at all is a match. She had a construction worker in her house. That construction worker ended up murdering her, having sex with her. Again, she was in her 60s, and then buried, or then got rid of the body outside of the house.
That was the other Nancy that was a victim. But Danny Troyer, he would essay the elderly. I've mentioned him several times now. Mike King and I mentioned him in our interview together. Mike King from Profiling Evil.
Easy to make because of the DNA. I don't find that at all interesting because she wasn't abducted. She was raped. That was a case strictly of somebody who saw something, saw an easy target, and was a pervert and decided to, rape a 60-year-old woman because he had access to the home. So that's crime of opportunity to a pervert. Another case that personally I found was in South Carolina, where an 80, I think she was 82, an 82-year-old was physically abducted. The guy comes in, no mask, no anything. It was just another crime of opportunity. He came in because his car that he had previously broken broke down.
And that noise you just heard, that was Shadow's stomach growling. He needs some more Hootie snacks, thank you. So, likes are free. Super chats, super stickers, and becoming a channel member or gifting memberships, they also help too. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel out there. And if you're watching, you're lurking, say hello to the flock of black sheep and to the school of Pisces fishes in the chat too.
So he goes into her house because it broke down around her house. I've talked about this case. He has pizza. He's there for an hour. He takes her, puts her in a car, thankfully crosses state line, shoots her in the back of the head. The FBI takes the case. He's convicted. And that happened just a couple of years ago in South Carolina, if you want to look up that case. That case, to me, I thought, oh, good, this might be similar. No, not really similar. Another crime of opportunity. So now when people are murdered, that's a whole different thing. In other words, not abducted and no associated ransom. I think that's the biggest thing we need to keep in mind now is the ransom. The ransom that is involved in this, the 2 notes that Savannah Guthrie believe are involved, law enforcement believe are involved. We know by their actions, the FBI believes they're involved. When you look at that, this is a ransom case. So then you ask yourself, why would Tomasso Cioni, who was her caretaker, who saw her often, all the time, they had these Sunday dinners together. Why? If he wanted to kill her for some inheritance, which I don't believe existed, I think there's the house, which, you know, after taxes, after real estate fees, plus the amount of the money that I think that house will go for, which will be far less than it normally would have, which is only just over $1 million. Because of a tragic incident that happened. That you just get a lot of people off the radar then. People don't want to buy a house where an elderly woman was abducted and maybe even died in that house during the abduction, bled on the doorsteps, caused all this pain and heartache. A lot of people would say, bad juju, there's another one down the street for sale or in another neighborhood. That's just.
Haven't you all seen Sinister? Sinister is the house there was murders in the house. A scary movie, actually. If you haven't seen the first Sinister, I thought was pretty good.
Just a fact. So, having said that, there's just nothing for them to gain. She lived on a pension. Her husband that did provide a wonderful, remember this house, by the way, was only bought for $85,000. Now, that was 50 years ago. This was a beautiful home, a nice large home with a guest home and a pool. This is absolutely an upper middle class type situation that her husband provided, and that later she sacrificed. And Savannah's talked about it. I post at night a lot of Savannah coverage talking about her family and her life, just to keep her in the media and to keep something going. I really hope you guys have a chance to take a look at that. They're at night, typically 1 at 5, 1 at 7, 1 at 9, or at least in those time frames, to highlight mostly this case. And I delve into other cases too. But basically to keep them in the light. And I do a lot on Savannah talking herself, just to keep everybody focused in on. And
that's a good thing to remember there, Snow Baby. This. Sinister scared the crap out of me until I saw the scary movie version of it. There's a big reason why that is. Think about Harry Potter when they put the roller skates on the spider. So when you make something funny and ridiculous, it kind of disempowers it. So that's a lesson for everything, by the way, not just scary movies, but you change your mindset and how you see something, it can really disempower it and help you. So just something to keep in mind. So I wanted to highlight that.
What Savannah's family, what Savannah's life, and what Nancy's life was about. So nevertheless, Tomaso, there is zero statistical data that I know of that says it is very likely for an 84-year-old to be abducted by a family member. Now, when you're talking killed, that's different. In other words, if somebody went in there and staged, and put together a murder. Also, we need to look at this important information, and that is there was surveillance done at the house. A surveillance on the 11th, it would appear. Savannah talks about this. She says, please, my local Tucsonians, look at this. We need you. Look at the 11th at night. Look at the 31st at night. Don't confuse that with the morning it happened in the early morning hours on the 1st. She specifically made that a separate date. The 24th came out of thin air. I don't know where that's from. I don't have anything to support that other than one source reporting, so I'm not even going to report on that. When I look at something, I want to see at least two sources, or a trifecta is perfect. In this case, I have a trifecta. I have multiple source reporting on the 11th. I've got neighbors and I've got Savannah. So to me, now we can take that pretty good as a fact, something we can work with. So we have the 11th, we have the 31st, and then obviously in that morning, right? That's what she's saying. Please help. Anything you saw on that night, and it could have even been further away. It could have been at the Circle K. It could have been where the person originated that drove that car that took Nancy. Who was up at that hour of the night, 1:47 general time of arrival, snatched that camera off, forcefully took that camera away. So anyway, that's what she's asking for. This is all around Tucson, everyone. Everything here to me is around Tucson. So how is Tomaso related to Tucson? How is he related to Tucson? We've talked about it. He's got a band, so people see him and they watch him play. He has a nexus with this gentleman. I've already done a show on the drummer. I mean, God bless that poor drummer. His family was literally held up. They couldn't even let their kiddo come home.
And that's absurd that people were doing that. And I think it's because of certain people that we know here in this space that was happening, by the way. But it's absurd that it was. I want to make sure that my thoughts on that are clear.
Because of all the threats and, horrible things they were saying, I mean, it's horrible what happened to that poor drummer by people trying to say he's porch guy. Again, that's a little guy. They said, oh no, because he can drum, he's coordinated. It's just it's hard for me to do a show when I cannot have facts that back up a philosophy. So I want to introduce you. This is Mr. Gonsalves. Obviously, no relation to Kaylee. He is, for everybody who doesn't know this, he is a federal public defender. He's an attorney that works to defend individual criminals who have been charged by the state. I spent all morning looking him up and everything about him. So basically, who's in his band? He's got a drummer who I think it's 15 plus years ago, stole a watch, had an alcohol issue, has since stopped drinking, and is a teacher that everybody, he has this terrible criminal record. Look at the details of that criminal record. But anyway, I talked about him. Don't want to revisit what I've already done, but I have never talked about Mr. Gonsalves, and I found him to be so interesting. He actually has been on numerous podcasts. He has a lot to say about the fact that he believes that individuals who are charged and looked at in the criminal justice system really don't get a fair shake. I'm just going to dumb it down to what his overall message is, either because of their minority status or because of other factors, their indigency, other factors that sort of don't give them a fair shake. So suffice it to say, he is a fighter. Look, the Guthrie family and people associated with the Guthrie family are very liberal in their points of views. I've already talked about Nancy in terms of everybody wants to focus on Savannah and that being the nexus to the person who decided to commit this crime. And I agree with you that Savannah's money and the exposure of her being on the Today Show certainly, sadly, and through no fault of Savannah's, likely opened the door for people to be able to target, to look at her as being a good target. But I think it's deeper than this. I think almost all of us think that there's some other nexus. And I'm just asking, could that nexus be through someone Tomaso is associated with or has associated with over the last 20 years being in Tucson? Is that a possibility? And one of the people, again, is his bandmate. And this guy's really a cool guy. He's well educated. He's an attorney. He's diversified, right? He plays in a band. He plays the guitar. And he's a great guy. He's fighting for individuals who otherwise.
In this picture here, it's got to be either years ago or Tomaso has not stopped using beard color, because he has much more hair in this picture than he does in the most current picture in the thumbnail. It's much more gray in the thumbnail and he's more bald. So how many years ago is this picture? I don't know.
Guys don't have anybody to defend them. And I believe strongly, and I know everybody else does here, everybody believes that everybody deserves to be represented. I don't care whether you're left or right. All of us believe, no matter how heinous you are, our system goes to crap if you're just accused and then convicted, if you don't have strong and rigorous defense of there. And that's what he does. So,
and it's a fair question to ask why Jen feels so inclined to defend Annie and Tomaso as much as she does. I'm in the middle. I'm not going to be accusing them and saying, go harass them, they're definitely guilty. Or, and you've seen the videos and you've seen the comment sections that say it. Definitely Tomaso, definitely Dominic and Evans, definitely Luke Daly. And there's tons of people that talk so definitively about it. And it's just, you can't do that. I always get frustrated when I see that myself. That being said, I don't think you can necessarily clear them either. So it's tough for people, but you got to have that nuance and that gray area there where, okay, you're not going to accuse them without evidence, but until there's an arrest made, no one should be cleared either. It's in that middle ground. But online does not do well with that middle ground, as we know, and as we can see.
What could be a nexus between Tomaso and him that could have had somebody highlight her, come to her? All I'm saying is he deals with criminals all day long, every day. That's what he does for a living. He deals with criminals, charged criminals. And by the way, most of these individuals get convicted, not because of him. I'm just saying, generally speaking, that are charged in this venue, they're ultimately convicted. So they're criminals. And I just wondered if anybody that had, he's their attorney, anybody who makes any correlation.
Yes, Brenda, she's trying to be a voice of reason, but the voice of reason is more so what Matt Murphy said, which is only the DA can clear someone. That's the clearest voice of reason.
Could anybody in that realm have come on to Nancy? In other words, not all the exposure on the Today Show, but rather all the exposure through these Tucson nexuses. In other words, inadvertent nexuses. It's possible.
I think the Brian Hooker case, I've said it doesn't look good for him. I'm not going to say he's definitely guilty, but there's a few things that are not looking too good for him. He was the last one with her on the open seas. It doesn't sound like he even tried very hard to save her. A history of supposed domestic violence, strangling his daughter. Like, there's a bunch of alcohol issues. So there's a lot of smoke there. But even with all that smoke, you haven't seen me say, yes, definitely guilty. I would say what you've heard me say is not looking good. You've heard me say that. Not looking good for Brian Hooker. And then him leaving the island too. It's like, that doesn't look very good for you.
We still don't know who all cleaned Nancy's house. How many housekeepers has she had over all these years? How many people did she have living in that guest house every night?
Let's see. Thank you very much for the super chat here, Wheezy. Rewatched Luke and his mom's interview. Very telling. Well, what was very telling about it? What did you think on a rewatch? So Shadow and I thank you for the super chat. And let us know. Let us know what you think is very telling.
One. You know, how many people? We had Philip Dubé on, and I thought he was really interesting. Philip Dubé says, listen, he thinks it is personal. Many people believe that there's a personal nexus. I do too, that there's a personal familiarity. But there is absolutely no motive for Tomaso Cioni to kill or have killed or paid to have killed Nancy. He is absolutely great living. I mean, a responsible living. I think he makes somewhere between $60,000 and $80,000 from what I could ascertain from the records. He's worth just under $1 million. His wife makes a good living too, you know, well over 3 figures between the both of them. They have one son. They interfaced with her daily. If they wanted to kill her, they would have never put together this extravaganza. I talked about people going out on the 11th and the 31st. They could have told them every little bit of information that they would have ever known or needed to know by a site survey on the 11th and on the 31st. It makes no sense to make multiple visits if you have this deep inside information, because they're risky. Multiple visits to a target location are risky. Even for us in the FBI, when we're doing our site surveys before we're going to do an arrest or a search warrant.
Now, Rooster, that is a good point. It does seem like Jen's tone has changed. Did it about face a 180 from the beginning of this, right? So I don't know if she's spoken to people maybe in the family or someone close to the family, and they've said, Jen, we don't want you going hard on him. Or something, right? I think it seems like something happened because her tone has changed.
We were always, oh my gosh, you know, we have to be very careful. Obviously, undercover vehicles oftentimes use business type vehicles. Things like that often have a girl and a guy in the car. All these things because we want to make sure we're not detected, that we don't look out of place. Because the last thing we want are neighbors looking at us and our whole plan, that's the important plan, the arrest, or the search, getting foiled. Because, and we've had it happen. I tell you, one time, so I was the case agent, so I'm ultimately responsible. But 2 other case agents, I asked them to go and wire up our informant. That was their job. So I'm kind of running and setting people up on a particular location where we're going to do this meet. And I asked these 2 other agents, well, guess what they did? They went into a Denny's and did it in a bathroom. Normally that's not too bad, but you better be at the Denny's in Southwest Houston and not in.
So before, I mean, she was never outright like saying, yes, Annie and Tomaso are guilty. But I think she was certainly much more open to the idea before. But that's certainly changed now. So what changed it? I don't know. Now we can go back and check the records, but I'm pretty sure if we check the records, we're not going to see this kind of hard defense for them.
You know, a block from where your target location is. So now there's these 2 people that look like they could be feds with somebody, and guess what? somebody associated with the case sees them foiled. We find out about it. I was just sick. It was my fault because I should have said, people, when you do that wire, that you got to do it miles away. I wanted it in a completely different cultural environment, absolutely different. Anyway, there's no way that you want to take the risk of going there on the 11th, on the 31st, and then returning on the 1st unless you have to. If you have insider information from...
That's a good point by Dana, that maybe Ashley Banfield was threatened with a lawsuit over it. Because Megyn Kelly did report that Savannah Guthrie was very upset with Ashley Banfield, did she not? So maybe Ashley Banfield... has Jen Coffendorfer ever been on Ashley Banfield? I think so, but maybe not. But maybe that kind of got around. And so they said, yeah, make sure you're careful. At least the big boys, right? But me personally, I try to be careful. I try not to go too far in one way or the other. I go more with the Matt Murphy line.
Cioni, who goes there all the time, who knows exactly what that house looks like inside and out. You don't need to do, you certainly don't need to do two. You certainly don't need to do two and expose yourself. Also, as I mentioned before, they had full ability to be around her meds. They could have put in her meds, just open up one of those little capsules and put just the tiniest amount, unless there's a reason to believe there's something going on and that she wouldn't have just died of a heart attack. Now, there are a lot of different poisonous substances that trace amounts that you could put in a capsule and she would have died of a heart attack. And with her heart condition and her age, nobody would have given it a second look. And labs do not test for these substances unless it's specifically believed and you inquire and you say, let's test for this and that. I'm not going to name them here. You probably know many of them. You can easily research this, but many, many things. If you wanted to kill her, you could have staged an accident in the house, had her fall in some way. If you really wanted to kill her, if you're Tomaso Cioni, when you drop her off that night, you walk in behind her, you help her get to bed, you do whatever you normally do in your routine. And then as she lays there asleep, you put a pillow over her. And that would be the end. And nobody would likely ever know. You would never stage this, I'll call it a Cecil B. DeMille, because that's what this is. Likely multiple people involved. In the dead of night, site surveys done, 2 ransom notes sent that are legitimate from the abductors. You would not torture this family. Look at what is happening with the subsequent notes. I'm not saying they're from the abductors. I'm saying we don't know. But what I'm saying is they have been thoroughly, absolutely tormented and tortured. And they continue to be. So people say, yeah, but did you see, this is another reason. Did you see how they acted? Did you see?
And Wheezy, if you're out there, let us know what in the court records contradicted what Luke Daly said. Because I'm not sure which court records you're referring to. In this video that we're going over here by Jen, it did pretty good for her channel. I think I got it's almost at 40,000 views so far. It's pretty good.
See how they acted in the car? Oh, I saw it. I posted it. They had their heads down. They had like a hoodie over. That's because everybody thought they had done it. It was already, the cat was already, I'm not going to say, I'm using the wrong words. They had already been accused. People were already accusing them. They were already having to listen to friends, neighbors, family, not family, but other people say such horrible things. In these high profile cases, this is why you're seeing, we saw it in Idaho 4, this is why you're seeing law enforcement come out and say, here's our list of people who are no longer believed to be suspects.
And yeah, CCC, Sheriff Nanos did clear them. But the entire issue is Sheriff Nanos can't clear them. That's the issue. Only the DA can clear them. So, Sheriff Nanos, to no surprise, spoke out of turn.
Idaho, they did it every week. Because those kids, the Jacks, Dylan, Bethany Funk, others, they were getting absolutely harassed, called murder, called horrible things. It still happens, by the way, everyone. It's still happening to them. Because these wackadoodles get this confirmation bias in their head that no matter the evidence, no matter, DNA at the scene, no matter somebody pleading guilty, all the other evidence in any case, if they get it in their heads that somebody is involved for whatever reason, they just roll with it. And they can't get it out, and it's stuck. So yeah, they had their heads down. And yes, for a time, they even had some of their social media go down. Can you imagine what it would look like? I tell you, I don't know if any of you have trolls. I certainly have trolls. And sometimes I'll open up my social media. I'm like, oh, this is just depressing, but for me, I just water off a duck's back, move on, because I know what those kind of people are. So nevertheless, they were getting it inundated, not only on social media, but in real life. Okay, I found this. Some people said, well, this is why we think they're guilty. They think they're guilty because they had the car. Do you see what an oxymoron this is? The public everybody wanted to know, you start off with the family.
And it's a good point. This is a good point here, Snow Baby. Did Nanos say, I cleared them? He said the family has been cleared. So if you wanted to give a very charitable interpretation to what Nanos said, maybe the DA told him and he was relaying what she said. Somehow I doubt that's what happened, though. Because here's the other thing. It's like, how do you clear someone when you have no arrests and you have no suspects? How can you clear anyone until you actually have an idea? So, if anything, a smart DA, I don't think would have, because now if you try to get a charge on somebody, what he said before could come back and bite them and can hurt the case. So, but that's good critical thinking, Snow Baby. I like that. Also, please remember to like the video out there because likes are free. Spank the like button or leave your DNA of choice on the like button. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And most importantly, say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat. And the School of Pisces Fish. And thank you very much for all the support I've gotten so far.
Is the family involved? How do you do that? You do polygraphs, you do interviews, you do search warrants and or get consent searches to go to somebody's place. You get all their digital devices and you take the vehicle that took Nancy the night before the abduction and you tear it up to make sure you don't miss anything that could show a sign of struggle, or that could show something happened in that car, or that could show that the vehicle data would indicate that he came back, or to show that the vehicle data showed up and back every Sunday night, because that's what they did. She took an Uber on Sundays because she didn't want, they were cooking and whatnot. So she said, I'll just Uber over to you. I don't find that at all odd. I don't want to drive because I don't want to drive back at night. I can't see well. And so I'm going to Uber over while you're making dinner and doing all of this. And then Tomaso, for safety reasons, not having her Uber back, he gentlemanly escorts her back. And I've got more on that later in another show. But This, everybody was, oh, they had it forever. I called Pima County and talked to the PIO. What's going on with the car? And I posted this, and they specifically said, we're returning it. We're returning it. They just are going through the process of returning it because they had to fix it. They had torn it apart. I should show some pictures. I mean, a good one is Brian Koberger's, but there's other vehicles. You have to tear it up to get to everything you're trying to get. So that's going to take a while to put it back together, to give it back to them in the state that it was in before. So people are so mad, or not mad, people use this as a fact to say, see, they were really guilty. They kept that car forever, but yet they wanted a thorough investigation of the car. They got a thorough investigation of the car and it was returned. Do you think if Tomasso Cioni was involved in this, that they would have given this car back? Does anybody think that? Because I promise you, the answer is no. No, no, no. Another thing, and this just came out. Well, it didn't just come out, but this is something I just saw. People are really willing to go to this low, right? Look, if you look to the right or left, well, it depends on how you're looking at it. My right, as you're looking at the stream, this is a fully AI gross picture that doesn't look at all like Tomasso, in my opinion, where they fabricated how he looked to try to make him look more villainous in some ways. And then they're talking about, this is all baloney. It's all junk. There's absolutely no support of this. I took this, I looked at it. No. No. And guess what? Because he likes rock music, punk music, however you want to call it. Listen, actually, I should have brought up my clip so you could listen to it. It's just music. It's his taste in music with a fellow teacher and an attorney.
So Shadow the Night Owl is right here to my right. He's the spirit animal of the channel, mascot of the channel. And I have to get him his Hootie snacks, likes, super chats, super stickers, subscribing to the channel, gifting memberships, or becoming a channel member. They all help me pay for Shadow's Hootie snacks. His birthday is March 17th. Mine is March 3rd.
A public defender. You want to say these guys are all in on this? Because he likes that music? Because you don't like the name of his songs? You know, after retiring, the first thing I did was, of course, set up a company to teach defensive tactics, self-defense, marksmanship, how to shoot, how to handle a gun. The reason I bring this up is, and I really like doing it. I really enjoyed doing it. But it was like I felt something was kind of missing. And I remember talking to my husband, I don't know whether I need to do soup kitchen or just volunteer all the time at some place for women's shelter. I mean, I already did some of the loose stuff, right? On certain holidays or certain times we do that, or, deliver popcorn or blankets or whatever, or do different things like that. But I was talking about something was calling me more deeper. And of course I was up to my eyeballs. I was coaching my son in football every single weekend. I was the offensive coordinator and I was the head coach. And then, I was doing both the offensive, the defense, and my husband knows a lot about football. And I was like, please, I need a defensive coordinator because it was just too much to handle. He came on as the defensive coordinator. Anyway, this is totally an aside. I coached my son for 6 years and, loved it. Our teams went undefeated all 6 years, won every championship, except I will say the very last year, We lost by, I believe, 1 point. And it was terrible. It was horrible, horrible loss. My husband and I really were like, he's like, why did you get so fancy with that play at the end? And I'm like, why didn't you close them down at the end? Anyway, all that aside, I'm completely went on a tangent there, but I went on a tangent to say,
look at that. I never would have guessed Jen Koffendorfer was the offensive coordinator for her son's football team that went undefeated for what? How many years did she say? 6?
that people's extracurricular activities, what they're doing, nothing points any fingers at Tomaso Cioni, not his connections with his bandmates. This is all nonsense and baloney. He never had any gambling issues. He's worth almost $1 million. He had every opportunity for years to do something to Nancy if he wanted. This is way too elaborate. The bottom line is, in researching Tomaso Cioni, I'm sorry, but I can't find anything, not one shred of evidence, not one shred that he was involved in this. Not one shred. I can't find any gambling debts. Can't find anything other than rumor and garbage. I want to say this. I respect everybody's opinions. I do. And in fact, that's why I spend so much time looking into why people think this. That's why I spend so much time, because I think, am I missing something? You know, I need to dig deeper. I need to look for.
No, she's very correct that there is no evidence. There is no direct evidence, at least that we know of, pointing to Annie or Tomaso. The only things that make you think about it would be, well, the last place she was and who dropped her off, right? That's really, I think, where most of it is coming from. But she's correct to say there's no direct evidence that we know of yet. That's true too. Got to be fair around here. Shadow makes me be fair.
Connections. Could somebody that they knew, Annie or Tomaso, because I'm concentrating on them because they lived there 20 years and everybody, it's obvious there's a deep Tucson nexus to this case. And so could it be somebody that Tomaso knew or Annie knew beyond everybody knowing Savannah because she's in your living room every day, and Nancy, of course, with her huge footprint on this community?
Now, Mace, that's where I would disagree. I think a possible motive is envy. Envy could be a motive, perhaps from Annie, for example, in which if Tomaso and Annie, that could possibly be a thing. People get envious of others that are successful all the time. And we saw that, I think, in one of the Monk's Intrigue videos, that apparently Annie and Savannah didn't get along very well. So that could be. But I'm not saying that's not an indictment or anything. It's just perhaps an observation. There's a lot of families that have envy in the family that don't go on to do something like this, right? So just because there's some envy doesn't mean there's definitive foul play.
All I can tell you is there is zero information that I've been able to uncover that he had anything to do with this. None. Not only did law enforcement say they were cleared weeks and weeks ago. And I know people say, no. It wasn't law enforcement. Oh my gosh, this is so nice. Oh, I'm going to go back up to that. But first, I just want to thank Top Stop for becoming a member of our channel. So appreciate it. That is just the #1 accolade when people become members. And we've got some cool stuff we're going to be doing for members. We're working on it. We've already got some cool stuff we've done. But we've got more. Sorry, I want to get this back up because I think I've only ever seen red on my screen one other time, and I said, red? What is red? Kimberly, thank you so much. I think it's financial. T, property taxes not paid. Inside job, you're the best.
$99.99.
I don't know anything about Tomasso's property taxes not being paid. I will look into that. I promise you. That's easy to find on tax records. Those are very easy to find. But I just can't find a reason. I can't find any facts to show that Tomasso's involved in this. And I can't find anything to show why any of these family members would have done this in this extravagant way. I can't find a motive, and I can't find anything. I always said this on, for instance, on the Karen Reed case. Why would you have Mrs. O'Keefe and Brother Paul so closely, friends with John's friends, if they thought they had anything to do with it? If you hear Savannah talk, how she talks to Tomaso, it's really Tommy, she calls him. They're close. They love this man. Look who went with them. Look who went with Savannah, comes in town. Huge celebrity. Who does she have go with her?
Kimberly on the bottom here is a pretty woman.
Look at her grab Tomaso. She knows the pain he is in as well. This whole family is in pain. But particularly Tomaso and Annie had the closest relationship with Nancy in terms of proximity, being able to see her every day. They're caretakers. And for those who say that that's a motive, oh, caretaking is a burden. Look, she lived on her own. She was in her mental faculties. She wasn't somebody that was, in a diaper, that didn't have a life. She was on the Today Show all the time. It wasn't a burden. It's when you are caring for somebody you love like that helped raise you, that took you into their family, it's love. Why do you think they had her over to dinner? You didn't have to do that. It's a sign of love and a sign of caring. And that's all I ever see. I can't find any evilness other than what people make on AI. I can't find it. I've looked. So, I'll say this.
So Dee and Marina, where did you hear this stuff about Nancy changing her will the next day? Because I didn't see anything like that. So where did you hear it?
For anybody saying, yeah, look at other family members that you thought were nice and sweet and loved their family member that took out their family member. Not like this. This is an abduction. There's 2 ransom notes. This was well thought out. This was well planned. This is something that is so unusual that statistically speaking, you can't line up statistics. Did somebody, though, that Tomaso and Annie knew, did he ever come to work for them? Or she? Did they ever have an issue? Did anybody have an issue with Tomaso or Annie? We've seen things go crazy over, grades, over disagreements, over...
And don't worry, folks, to cleanse our palates, we're going to watch some Tony Bruschi next. Prosecutor Tony Bruschi.
So many different things. Did anybody, his bandmate, any of those criminals he's dealing with, did any of them ever have any intersection or just come on to the idea, knowing about, maybe they never watched the Today Show and they didn't know anything about Savannah. but they knew about Tomaso from the van, and then they came to know about Nancy, and then they came to know about the money in Savannah. There's so many possibilities, but for everyone in the audience, I agree personal. I agree somebody with a close nexus. Anyway, I really do appreciate everybody. I appreciate all opinions. And I always say this, everybody in the audience, you all could be, you all are jurors, right? You all could be jurors. I'll never be a juror. Nobody will ever select me. Law enforcement never gets selected. So anyway, that's where I stand on this. If somebody wants to DM me or otherwise has some nugget of proof, not proof, or not because he dropped her off. We all know that. Not because they kept his car. I've explained why. Not because they don't like how he looks. Not because he plays in a band. He was well accepted by the family. That's my belief. In any event, everyone, thanks for spending your Sunday morning here with us on Break the Case. And I'll continue to read the comments. I know my mods are amazing at sending me important comments that come through and calling those to my attention, things to follow up on. So everyone, I appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time, may justice be served.
All right. Now on to Honey Brewski. Wheezy says one more thing. Luke's mom said investigators didn't take anything from their house and the inventory sheet is given by LE, and that's not true. I mean, I'm not looking too far into the Luke Daly and his mom's interview. Could be something, might not be something, but I can't tell you one way or the other. But I do know one thing. There was all sorts of comments saying, oh, definitely guilty, definitely guilty. And I don't agree with that. Yeah, I'm not sure what was up with Jen's tone on that one. I mean, these last couple of videos here, she's really kind of changed it up.
This is The Big Breakdown, a long look back at some of the biggest stories we're covering for you at the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Bruschi and Robin Drake.
Well, here we go. We're going to talk about Nancy Guthrie. Again, get an update.
And so, chat, I'd also not heard anything. Why would Tomaso be power of attorney? Why wouldn't it be Annie or Savannah or Cameron?
Discuss where things are at or where they're not at. Crime scene was released too early. The thermal imaging plane sat aground. The lead sergeant had never worked a homicide. Experienced detectives had already been sidelined. The doorbell footage was declared unrecoverable until the FBI recovered it. And the sheriff leading all of this has a documented grudge against the very agency that was supposed to help him. Every one of those failures, they have a name attached to him, to it. The question isn't just what went wrong, it's why, and whether this case can survive what has been done to it. Now that we are, 7, 8, how many weeks in are we now, guys? I don't even, do we know?
Infinity and beyond.
I think 8, no, I don't know. I think we're on day 70 something.
I think it's at least 8 or 9 weeks, right?
My God. I mean, it's the beginning of the year, and here we are. We're almost into May. Yeah. Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent.
Apparently, we can't avoid Jennifer Coffindaffer, apparently.
Is our guest, and of course, as always, with me, Robin Drake, retired FBI special agent, chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program. I want to start here. I want to start with a tweet that we started with this morning that we all had joined in on. Jen, you had posted on the internets about the the thoughts from Nanos directly, that Nanos knew the motive, or that law enforcement knew the motive going in. Another wild claim that, of course, has come out of the mouth of Nanos over time. And I think my response was something of, I don't believe anything this man says that he knew anything. I guess I want to start there, Jen, with Nanos, because it's one of many claims that he's made. Do you buy it? Do you think they know the motive? Or do you think this is just more lip service and just more things that came out of his mouth from the man who's not used to people holding him accountable for his words?
It's a good question. I've always said at the backbone of these cases, at least from my vantage, I always try to post the facts as disseminated by law enforcement as the crux of our fact basis, right?
Yeah.
In other words, sources, we never even know who they are. At least we know who he is. We also know he's in the know, right? He has access. He's running the investigation alongside the FBI. In this particular quote that I took from one of his press conferences, he specifically says, we've always had the motive. It was what they thought from the beginning. And so then you look at that and you say, well, what corroborates that? And what corroborated that were a couple of things. One was the statement by Savannah Guthrie. Number two was the fact that on the 2nd, that was when the first message was sent, email was sent to the locals. We just didn't know about it because they didn't say anything. And then finally, it went to TMZ on the 3rd, so we knew about it.
Well, here's the thing, folks. I mean, Brian Etten, he's not talking about it the last several days. We all saw Ashley Banfield is in the Bahamas, so she's not talking about it. Tony Bruschi's talking much more about the Duggars, which leaves who? Law and Crime Network not talking about it. True Crime with Matt Johnson not talking about it. Nancy Grace talking about it on and off. But that's really it. That's really it. Megyn Kelly, I don't think she's talked about it recently either.
I've said, I don't think the ransom request was worth anything. In other words, it was more to punish this family because by then she was already dead. So it wasn't really for money. But I think from how I saw him deliver that, he believes they know and that it was a ransom.
So what is the motive? And is it just cruelty to Savannah Guthrie? Is that what he believes it is, or that he believes he's known from day one?
No, I think he thinks from day one it was a ransom.
Okay.
And then the cruelty came after she died, which, come on, we all knew you can't kidnap an 84-year-old with health issues, which they all have, and expect them to live.
Yeah.
That's why I still, this is just, there's so little actual data and facts, and it's just all over. Because, okay, so we go, I mean, how many times are you going to keep saying, we keep going down the road of, all right, we're doing it. The intent is to make money, and they completely screwed that up this way, sideways up.
I don't agree with that, Robin, but this is what they say about the power of attorney thing. So it's interesting because it's not quite what people are saying. Tomaso Cioni's power of attorney document is in spotlight amid Nancy Guthrie's kidnapping. Annie Guthrie and her husband Tomaso Cioni are two individuals currently sparking immense curiosity online. Amid the buzz around the couple, Tomaso's power of attorney document has surfaced as a point of public speculation following the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie. An X account, Matt Blanc Inc., posted an unverified document showing that Tomaso has given his wife durable power of attorney over all of his financial and personal affairs on May 16th, 2025. The document drew mixed reactions from netizens. What the hell does that mean? So that's what he did. He gave it to his wife.
Upside down. And even with, and Jen, you've been posting this too. I thought this was a great idea. So if this is actually real, if they actually think this is real, and one of these nut jobs is actually the real ransomer, and I'm highly skeptical of that to begin with too, then why not give a little something to find her body, to recover the body? Because if they wanted to make money, you have to be able to provide that, even if you can't give sign of life at this point. If the intent was money, but now we're not getting that, which is weird. And then now if the secondary intent is cruelty, okay, but there's a lot of other better ways to do that as well, more effective ways. And there's no.
Now, what they're saying is this. No big deal. This was just used for a mortgage loan closing between him and Annie. They are used all the time when one party can't attend the loan closing. He named Annie as his agent for purposes of the listed property only. It is very common and used all the time in real estate and other transactions. So, and this is in May 2025, by the way. So that's what, 6-7 months before? Oh, we got a super chat here. Thank you very much for this. Wow. She has a question. Why can't law enforcement find the person who sent the ransom notes? It just seems odd in this time. Well, what we learned about the ransom notes were they used a form to do them. And I don't even think they were real anyway. Though Savannah Guthrie thinks a couple of them were real. But personally, I don't. Now, why can't they find them? I guess because whatever method they're using to send them via the online form must be untraceable. So it's got to be that, or else you would think they would be able to find them. But thank you very much for that. Wow, Shadow and I appreciate it.
There's no other leakage. That's why this whole thing is just bifurcated, strange to me. And kind of following up with that, I'm curious, and you posted this as well, and I wholeheartedly agree. I'm curious. BAU's not weighed in as far as we know. Now, they might have consulted, and that's why I'm curious what you're hearing. Generally, if BAU consults on things, they're not going to publicize it. The sheriff's department, someone else is going to publicize that they weighed in on it. But in cases where and we saw this on Tony and also Jen when we covered the yogurt shop murders many years ago, and BAU came in on that. And they refused to actually do a consultation, really, because they didn't have enough data. They didn't have enough evidence. And so, Jen, I'm curious if BAU is either, are they weighing in and the sheriff's not saying it? Did they come in, say, we don't have enough to say anything? Or they came in, weighed it, and said, it's just not fitting any of these patterns. That it's kind of where I'm at on this. That's why I'm open to everything, because every time you go down a road, boof. Every time you this road, boof. And so where do you think it is with BAU?
I 100% think they weighed in. And I think that they were able to weigh in based on the ransom notes that they had on day 2 and day 3 and day 5. And also on him, looking at him, just like with Luigi, that we could tell so much in terms of economically what that guy was about. You could tell so much about his age, using the hostels, all those little data points, as you put it, that really could give a profile of him. I think we have the same profile contributors here, particularly with that ransom note. Robin, I used the BAU 3 times. All 3 times they were.
And yeah, Shadow's starting to lean a little bit here. He needs a couple more likes and subscriptions to the channel to get upright again. Or super chats, super stickers, or becoming a channel member, or gifting memberships would also suffice. And say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat. Lots of Pisces fish here too. Make sure you say hello. We're a very emotionally safe group, Jackie. No one's going to attack you here. But we're also supportive, encouraging, and eccentric, no doubt too. And I would have it no other way.
Absolutely spot on.
Oh, yeah. That's why I keep going to their research as well. 100%. Because, again, they're using research and background and data from all these things. But there's also a difference, and I'm curious whether they, inside, this is more for the audience than anything else. So inside a CERG, Critical Incidents Response Group, you have the BAUs. And last I was in, there was 4 different BAUs, 1, 2, 3, and 4, each with a different specialty. And then you also have the crisis negotiators, which are actually separate, but it's still inside CERG. So I was thinking, that the crisis negotiators are the ones that are actually working with, and these guys like Chris Voss, who never split the difference. Those are the ones actually working on the statement analysis and working with the ransom note. Or the BAUs? How does that, because I actually never worked with them directly in my cases because our team did different things. How do you think that worked, that dynamic worked?
I think they would both have been consulted, as you said. You just bring up a great point. You have your hostage negotiators, but to me, hostage negotiators in large part get their information from other agents. In other words, from the case agents. They're the ones, though, that know how to communicate and how to make the best interaction with the hostage taker. Right. So it's that skill combined with the behavioral analysis unit's knowledge of behavior that is combined, in my opinion, that would make the right nexus for the what would have been communicated by the family.
Wow, thank you very much for the super chat. Wow, you should get Shadow a wizard hat. You know what? That's a damn good idea. Maybe I should give Shadow some wands here as well. And like put him on his head like this. If I could ever get it to stay. Keep his balance. But Shadow and I say thank you. And for the rest of you, make sure you like the video out there. I know you're lurking.
I think BAU is all over this sucker.
Yeah, I would hope so. And I'll tell you that, and that's why even from the get-go, I thought the communication that Nancy and the family, Savannah and the family was doing was really spot on. They covered so many different angles that would appeal to so many different people, I thought. And you could see their origin of what they wanted to say, then tweaked and fine-tuned by these master crafters. But yeah, anyway.
So if we're looking back here and let's play along with Nanos for a moment, and he knows the motive, and the motive was ransom. Obviously, that didn't happen, even though they said they'd pay, dead or alive. And it's not to criticize, Savannah or her family or anything doing anything wrong.
But remember, Jackie, this hearing community is one of a kind. So don't get a preconceived notion about what those other communities would be like, because that is not the way it is here.
Wrong or right? I mean, just what if they knew this motive, and this was the motive all along? It was to get ransom, and then they offered it, and these notes originally were authentic. If what went wrong? What could have been done differently that may have produced a different outcome, or did they do everything right and just the other side, the people who have Nancy, just chose not to participate at some point?
Yeah, good question.
I think a couple of things. First of all, I can't imagine the spot this family must have been in on the spot with all of their emotions completely overwhelming them. And they're supposed to make a life and death decision on the spot, especially now that we know the first ransoms came in on day 2. Mm-hmm. Right. So after 24 to 48 hours, that's when the ones went to the local station. So now they're supposed to come up with $6 million. They're supposed to try to figure out why they're going to a news outlet, and they're listening to what the FBI is saying. And I can tell you the FBI, this is my opinion, they did not recommend giving any money without proof of life. That is just what I think the recommendation was. On top of that, we've talked about this a little bit, but if you have $40 million or your net worth is that means if you sell your stuff, you sell your stocks, you sell your investment.
And yeah, I wouldn't be paying any money without proof of life either. So I didn't really have a problem with that. I can't even really think of a scenario where I would pay. It's like, what am I even paying for? Like, I will pay if she's alive, but if you already killed her, what the hell am I going to pay you for? Like, seriously.
It does not mean you have 60 million underneath your mattress. You're not going to have it in bank accounts unless you have a lot of bank accounts. It's only FDIC insured for 250,000, I believe, most banks. So think money is, as we all know, it's when you have money, you're making it work. And so I think the time span was too short. Remember, they had only till the 5th and then the 9th So that is not a lot of time. And again, you're making this huge decision and there's no proof of life. What I wish is that they would have thrown, like I'm suggesting right now, throw in half a Bitcoin, 37, tickle the wire. You and I know, and I've never talked about this to give the number, Robin. Case funds is a huge number. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm also curious, just going to the perpetrator of this, again, if the intent is the money, why did they use the most unconventional, never used methodology, which again goes against?
Yes, this is the question, Robin Dreek. Very good question. Because why would you ever do this for money? Why ever? It makes no sense to me. Jen was saying kidnapping go wrong for no. Why would you do this? Of all the ways to get money, you're going to do this? It just doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense as a punishment or a revenge / hit on Nancy. That makes sense. But to do this for money? Really? I can't see it. I can't see it. So great question by Robin Dreek.
It's the profile of someone doing this, which is going through media and not a direct contact. What was the intent of that, do you think?
Oh, I think when they asked for money at that point, again, I'm down to just being cruel. I mean, they knew that the FBI, this is my opinion. I think they knew they weren't going to get a dime. They knew exactly what I'm saying, just like everybody knows. If you don't have proof of life or proof of death, the FBI isn't going to support that. And they are going to work with what the FBI is recommending, typically speaking. And they're an emotional wreck at that point. So you add that all together, Robin, I just think it was cruel. And I think it was those people wanting to be in control of the narrative and have everybody see them on center stage.
So now we are getting reports, TMZ, they went too long without having a good story. So suddenly they're getting ransom notes again. How legit do you think these things are? You were just talking about that half a Bitcoin offer that seems to be out there. Let's talk about that and entertaining that. I mean, Bitcoin is somewhat traceable. I have no idea what sort of resources, I would imagine the FBI has far greater resources than you or I have at trying to track something like that. Why don't they? I mean, at the very least, there's someone to go arrest. I mean, if you can trace it down. I mean, but if they, there's got to be ways that they're expecting to collect this Bitcoin and not be traced. So I don't think it's just as easy as, well, send the money and see what happens or where it goes. It may go absolutely nowhere. And I don't know that you're ever going to truly find where it went. Or am I wrong on that? Is there a way that they could figure this out on the back end?
And even throw more on that. So sorry, Jen, we're going to inundate you. And Savannah said they would. I don't understand, like you, why? Because they actually make the ultimate call whether they're going to pay anything or not. Why not risk that? Because it seems, why wouldn't you?
This is a no-brainer for me. And, we make calls on cases like this all the time with case funds. Yes, you had to get everybody to approve it. But we made a lot of calls like this, particularly in narcotic cases and organized crime cases. In other words, you have to be willing. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a bank getting $1 million out. That's the FBI's money. And we're taking a risk that things are going to go smoothly with the surveillance on it. We're going to track it. And so this is not new to the FBI.
And yes, Danielle, there's someone's birthday that's tomorrow, 4/20. Whose birthday is it tomorrow? That's 4/20. Someone said it. But when they said 4/20, I said, yep, that's Danielle's day. Whose birthday was it? Who was I talking to? Was it a Julie? I think so. I can't remember now, though.
The FBI is very good at this. And when it comes to Bitcoin, Tony, there are these chains that are easily followed, and it's public knowledge. The problem is Batman could be at the end of that chain. So now you have a ghost that took it out. But there are documented cases, and I actually am going to go on Twitter and post a documented case about how it can be done. So once they take it out, if they're going to make it liquid, it has to go through a traceable unit. It's
Mm-hmm.
what it becomes different.
And that has even a higher probability than some of the cases I worked in the counterintelligence world. I mean, there was cases in New York many decades ago when I was first there where we actually were doing recruitment ops where we got approved, you put diamonds and some non-traceable things under windshield wipers of intelligence officers with a note, knowing the probability of that stuff walking was pretty high, but you're always willing to take that risk of the potential reward. So it's interesting here. Why aren't they willing? Why isn't someone willing to take a risk for a potential reward of just her body? Just bring her home, like Savannah kept saying. I'm with you. I don't get why no one's doing more. There's certainly going to be more done. That's because there's a moron at top running this.
Just think, Robin, all of the money that is being spent on this case. We saw the sum added up in Gabby Petito looking for Brian Laundrie. It was millions and millions and millions of dollars in assets. I can't remember the exact $1 million figure, but it was multi-gazillion dollars. And they're not willing to spend a freaking half of a Bitcoin to tickle the wire here. I am stunned at the decision.
Me too.
But who is she stunned at? Law enforcement or the Guthrie family? I guess she's more criticizing law enforcement. It wouldn't make sense for her to be this critical of the Guthrie family after how she was just talking about Annie and Tomasso, right?
It all comes down, and sorry, it's showing how the sausage is made here. It all comes down to these pots of money, right? That's how the world thinks inside the bureaucracy. Well, we have all this overtime we can pay, and since agents don't get paid overtime, it doesn't really count. You just get paid one salary. So we can easily use salary here, but this has actually got to come out of discretionary funds when this is actually don't have as much discretionary funds. So you can't spend $10,000 here, but we can pay $100,000 in supposed overtime. It just makes no sense.
Guys, I think we're forgetting the most important thing here. Kash Patel has a girlfriend who is a singing sensation that he needs to go see. So, I mean, there's money that needs to go to fly him to whatever Indian casino that she may be performing at in the lounge on a Thursday after the buffet empties at 8:30, and you can get 2-for-1s on the slots.
Very specific story there by Tony Bruschi.
That money needs to go there. I mean, what are we thinking? I mean, this is insane. Why would we want to spend this on an investigation into a kidnapping and a murder when you need to fly that around? I mean, come on,
pots
America.
Of money. That's the Gulfstream pot of money.
Yeah, America. Let's talk about another aspect of this case, and let's get your thoughts in the comment section on Substack and YouTube.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.
Every deputy who cast a ballot on this against Nanos, because the board of supervisors said, hey, let's see what's going on here. Do y'all think he's a great guy or not? The board of supervisors just gave him 10 business days to answer under oath or face removal, because every deputy said, we don't like you. You're not qualified. We have no confidence in you, which is great when every person that works under you doesn't believe in you. An independent review confirmed he used his political office to go after political opponents, and he's still there, still running the most high-profile missing persons case in America. So what exactly is he holding on to? And what falls apart for him the moment he lets go? So let's drop off there. Jen, you've investigated leaders who've held on to power long past the point where everyone around them wanted them gone. When a sheriff is facing a 241-0 no confidence vote from his own deputies, the board threatening removal, an independent review confirming political retaliation, and a $2 million federal lawsuit. What's the calculation that makes someone say, you know what, I'm going to stay in this job. This seems lovely. I'm gonna dig in even deeper. Why on earth would a sane person at some point not say, yeah, you know what, nobody believes in me. Maybe I'm best just to go to retirement at some point and just bow out? Is it ego? Is it pride? Is it ignorance? I mean, what the hell do you think is going on?
Great question by Tony. I've missed Tony Bruschi as well. We haven't played as much of him recently, but I'm glad to have him back on the screen. I like his prosecutor, especially after how Jen was talking. I prefer this go-getting prosecution style. Heather, thank you very much for the super chat. Shadow and I definitely appreciate it. See that, Shadow? Those are Hootie snacks. They're just like my popcorn. Popcorn are my Hootie snacks. Popcorns, carrots, and oranges every night. So thank you so much for that, Heather. Shadow and I are very grateful. As for the rest of you, lurkers and whomever, better at the least like. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And then say hello to the flock of black sheep here. And the plenty of Pisces fish that are floating / swimming around here as well. He's a court TV contributor, Julie. Tony Bruschi is.
On here behind the scenes with Nanos.
Behind the scenes, behind his head, this is what's going on. In other words, behind his face, in his brain.
Yeah.
I'm best for the job. I'm completely misunderstood. I've done everything right. I made one minor mistake that really wasn't my mistake. It was the 6-month detective on the job releasing the crime scene. I'm the man, and most people believe that. I just have a group of haters that are in my political opponent arena, and so I'm not paying attention to any of this.
Yep, that's about right. I'm with you. That's exactly what's going on behind that face.
How do you reach somebody like that? Is there any reaching somebody like that? Is there any lever within Pima County where somebody steps in and says, come on? I mean, they
No, there is no way. I mean, they're doing everything they can. He got 0 votes in the confidence vote of the anonymous law enforcement. It's not so anonymous when it's unanimous, though, right? It means everyone voted against you. But here's what I will say. Remember that video I did, the shorts video? Narcissists' biggest weakness is they're susceptible to praise and their extreme hypersensitivity to criticism. If you know how to use that, that's how you would get someone like Sheriff Nanos manipulated. Now, again, a lot of people were saying, and rightfully so in that video, oh, well, you should just be going no contact. Why are you playing this game? But it's like, well, because sometimes you're forced to deal with them in the real world, whether it's business, whether it's law enforcement, or fill in the blank with another scenario. In a case like this, where it comes down to justice and a life and death matter, well, maybe that's the time to pull out some of this against Sheriff Nanos. All right. He's probably very susceptible to flattery and praise, but also hypersensitive to criticism. So once you know that about somebody, how do you handle them? And if you play your cards right, you can play that person like a fiddle. So that was my answer to Tony Bruschi's question.
They've done it every public way possible now with the no vote of confidence. Every way you could shame somebody legally, they've done. Yet he's still there. And I get that's probably exactly right. What's going on behind those eyeballs? That's the equation. And that's the outcome that he is seeing in his brain. But is there a support system going on behind the scenes, you think, that helps confirm that helps continue that confirmation bias that he has already going on in his brain? Is there any reaching this guy for the greater good to convince him to think differently?
In a word, no. And secondarily, he has a lot of people that are supporting him.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what, because they're looking for those raises. They're looking for those positions. Look at that 6-month, so a homicide detective with 6 months detective. He's probably his biggest cheerleader. There's a lot of people that are behind the scenes supporting him, some because of an emotional attachment over years. I tell you things like people's secretaries and people's admin people. If he's treated them right, they're going to be their biggest supporters, and other people who are in good graces that want him to survive all of this. So I don't think he's going anywhere unless he is literally somehow forced out.
Yeah, Jen's hitting it right on the head. When you have people that are benefiting from you in that position, why would they oppose him? Because it just doesn't work that way. And Jen hit it right too. The support staff, they are the ones running that office. They're the ones that have longevity. They don't move. They stay in place. They run the finance. They run the economics. They run the paper trails. They run all these things. And if he's treated them well over the years, they're the ones that actually have the undercurrent of the entire office and support it. So yeah, I'm with Jen. So it's easy to have a lot of haters, but if the haters don't make an impact on those that are actually keeping things running, then there's not going to be a change.
That's a fair point by Snow Baby too. If there's a Mrs. Nanos out there, maybe she has some influence. But I definitely think Nanos is narcissistic / has a big ego. That's why I mentioned the susceptibility to flattery and praise thing. Mike, thank you very much for the super chat here, Mike. Shadow thanks you as well. Not up to speed with someone detained in Nancy's case. There was a misreport about that the other day, but there was not. So Nancy Grace had a video about a DNA bombshell, and someone was saying, oh, there was someone detained, but then there wasn't. So it was a false alarm. But Shadow and I thank you, Mike.
I'm wondering, if there's an element of running out the clock on this as well in his position. Like if he were to step down right now, are there any legal repercussions to him? Could there be civil suits filed? I know he's protected pretty well for the position that he's in terms of any sort of lawsuits and all that, which, it is our system works. Don't like it, but it is what it is. So he's fairly insulated there to a certain extent, but I wonder if he's calculating this too of like, well, if I just, if I retire here in a couple of years, whatever it is, I think it's like 28 or something when his term is up, or he could be reelected, God forbid. I'm wondering if, time will heal the wounds in his mind, and maybe when he steps away and does eventually retire, he's waiting for a greener pasture to step into than the one he may be stepping into if he were to do that right now. Again, completely, completely based on his own self-interest, not in the interest of the community that he serves. But I'm wondering if that's part of the calculation and part of the inspiration to just keep his head down, ignore every piece of criticism, and only take in the people that are singing his praises.
Well, take a look at what just happened. I think it was yesterday, and forgive me if I butcher the name. I'm not a political person, but the California guy running Swalwell, running for governor after the whatever
those accusations,
kisses and all these things.
Sure. Horrible shit.
That look at that backlash now.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know who. Obviously, he wants to try to. I'm sure his poor family, they're just suffering with all these horrible accusations and things, especially if they're true. And he wants to step away. But imagine if Nanos right now just put up the white flag. Tony, he will never do that. And I wanted to ask, isn't it coming up the 120 days? Do we have that exact day marked on the calendar? The 120 days that they have to get the votes to
getting
there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we're there yet, because I think they began this operation. I don't think we're 120 days into the year yet, are we? Because
I'm just saying I think we're less than 2 months away.
Yeah, we're getting close. It's not a lot of time, because you have to average like 1,000 some signatures a day, or it's something ridiculous. It's like very unattainable. I think it's more than 1,000, isn't it? Almost like it's some ridiculous number. Like we have the bars are set so high that they're almost unattainable. I feel like, I wonder if at the end of all this, if Pima County is going to reevaluate some of these things and go, maybe we should have easier levers to pull should we need to remove somebody, because the way they're currently set up makes it next to impossible. I mean, it would take quite a bit. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen or anything, but the only other thing that I could think that would maybe trigger more motivation to remove this man is if there were some sort of a sex scandal or something that come out. That seems to be the lever that pulls a lot of people out of these positions. You can just defile the community and destroy investigations and be incompetent here and there in many people's opinions, and you're good to go till your term is up. But you get that mixed in, and it's like, whoa, that's a bridge too far.
Well, I didn't hear what Tony said about it. I didn't hear someone else say it, I should say, but he was saying you need 1,000 signatures a day or something that is unsustainable or unattainable. I haven't heard that. Because if that's really what it is, you would need like a freaking team of people out there. You would need like 10 people at least, or 20 people collecting 5 signatures a day, or more than that, actually, right? 20 people collecting what? 50 a day? That's hard. I've done this kind of work before, collecting petition signatures. It's not easy. You can get like 30 to 40 on a good day because not everyone's home. So if you really need 1,000 a day, that's almost like an effective way to never let it happen. So, but I'm not sure if that's true.
Seems it's funny where people will draw the line.
Yeah, I got the deadline. So it was filed on March 12th. They have deadline submit signed petitions by July 10th, and signatures required 122,211. 25% of the votes cast in his last sheriff selection is what they need.
Mm-hmm. So that would bring us to a vote.
So you need 122,000 throughout the whole course, not like a day. That would be pretty much impossible to do it in a day. But you would need 1/5 of the people that voted in that time. That makes more sense. But that, even still, that is a hefty margin to reach.
We were to get there, and they have to be verified signatures too, as well. It's not just, you can't just go around and like fill out a bunch of names and here, like they have to so you need, I mean, truly, if you're, doing the numbers or something, 160, 200,000 really to achieve reputable, actual, verifiable 120,000 to get there. So that's a lot of signatures. Is there any chance in hell they're going to get there?
Maybe. So I'm sorry, Jen. So it's being led by Daniel Buteras, and they're aiming for 135,000 signatures. They seem to sound optimistic. Anyway, go ahead, Jen.
That's a lot of signatures to need. 130,000 in how long do they have to do it? 60 days. I mean, that's like a sprint. But you would think Nanos would just step down, considering everyone frickin' is against him anyway. But he's going to be a stubborn mule, is what I think. But maybe you can manipulate him and say, you know what, Sheriff Nanos? It would actually be showing what a great sheriff you were to step down, to put your ego aside, and to say, I want to do what's best for the people. And people would praise you for life, Sheriff Nanos. Maybe that could get him in the right direction. I don't know.
No, I'm sorry about that, Robin. Yeah, I mean, and this is his opponent. Just to be clear, this isn't just some citizen upset about the Guthrie case. This is the guy that wants to be sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I just want to make that crystal clear.
There's political behind it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying he's hugely motivated.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, it's better than just, Joe Blow walking around with a clipboard. There is something there to it. And I don't know. I wonder if we could get there. That would take us to a new election, and then we'll see if the villagers make the same bad choice twice or 3 times. It would be if he were to be reelected. I believe might even be more than that because he was sheriff for quite some time prior to that. I don't know. It'd be very interesting to see where that could possibly line up at the end of the day. Supervisor Hines said something also significant, that even if Nanos provides that response, which he still is required to do, that's the clock that's counting down. That, I believe, we're in like less than 6 or 7 days where he has to respond to the lack of confidence issues that they brought to the table. But the statute with that is response. It's not satisfactory response. It's not response that makes a modicum of sense. It's just response. I mean, really, he could, respond with the lyrics to Mary Had a Little Lamb, and it would be a response.
That's almost like a filibuster. But that's the other thing, right? You think if someone lies under oath to get their position, that should be a fireable offense. But instead, you have to go through this rigmarole of getting these 130,000 signatures. I guess, and you got till July to get them. Is that what they said? But even so, it's a freaking lot of signatures. But he lied under oath. He got suspended and lied about it. He assaulted someone with a flashlight while they were in handcuffs. Not the kind of person you would think should be elected sheriff, but here we are.
He's going to put together a great response because, again, it's not just him. It's him and his cadre of individuals who are assisting with that. And that's going to be their number one priority. This isn't going to be investigative, solving any crimes, helping with Nancy Guthrie. He's got a cadre of not only deputies, but also admin people that are working on these responses, because those questions were hugely comprehensive. Things like about discipline. Just imagine how many people this guy has disciplined. We know about a lot of them. Imagine all of that he's going to have to support and have the documentation why he did something. So this is taking a lot of work behind the scenes. I would tell you, most hours of most days leading up to this deadline.
So, Tony, here's what it's saying right now that I'm looking at this no confidence vote. Union vote announced March 24, 241 no confidence and resigned, 65 abstained, 0 in favor. Nano's response, according to this, was March 25th, the very next day. His exact statement was, "You cannot attack my department, attack the sheriff, but you will not get by with attacking my department," whatever the hell that means. But apparently
That doesn't make much sense.
he did respond, according to this. So I don't think he's going to say anything else on it. My guess.
So his statement made no sense. You can't attack the sheriff's department, but you attack the what? That doesn't even make any sense.
And for the same reasons Jen's saying, if he feels he has the support of enough people, which he does, again, at this point in his career, people know how to form a coalition around you to support your actions, decisions. And you're also going to he's very used to having opponents. I mean, we've seen this in all organizations where you have people on high where they're very used to pissing people off. And they're very used to taking heat on things. And that's why he seems unflappable in all these things. That's why you see him going to basketball games and driving rich cars around, because it's always, I'm a science fiction fan, as everyone knows, and the new Battlestar Galactica, they always say, all this has happened before and all this will happen again. And I think that's his mantra.
And you just heard the number there, 69 people abstained. So he's at least got 69 supporters, and that's a lot of manpower.
All right, so this is a different kind of report then, too. Didn't we hear no confidence in Sheriff Nanos, as in a unanimous vote? Now, you see, this is an interesting point here, right? This is how people lie by omission. So 69 people abstained. We didn't hear that. This is the first I've heard of 69 people abstaining. But can you see how that can be a little bit misleading and manipulative to not get the whole story? So a unanimous vote against Sheriff Nanos is very different when you consider 69 abstained. So, again, just something to consider.
Power.
Is that supporters, though, Jen, or is that people who just don't want to be on the record to be on the chopping block when he decides to cut the next heads off the monster?
Well, it could be both. Some might be scared of that, but some just might not want to stick their necks out for him either. Because that's the other side of it, right? Okay, Nanos is toast. People that did stick their neck out for him, it's not going to go too well for them under new leadership. So it could be both.
Could be a combination of both. To me, I would believe that it's somebody that believes they have something to gain by him being in power. Some of those, and the other one, right? They get, and Tony, you're the one that just spelled it out, how impossible it's going to be to get those signatures. So that's not going to work. You also spelled it out that all that he has to do is answer. Yeah. He doesn't have to do anything further. So we've answered our own questions. He's there until 2028.
I'm here to bring no hope. Happy Monday, everyone. No hope.
Speaking of no hope, where's no hype? I'll be hyped to see no hype.
But so here's the positive side. As we've said before, people in that department that are trying to do righteous work, that they see him as getting in the way, they've already figured out how to get around him. They've already figured out how to work with his nutter craziness, and they're still going to do the important work anyway. Where it hurts, and that we saw in this case, which was really shocking me, is how he removes people with experience that threaten his kingdom from those good posts, from those important posts, like investigating big cases like this, and put someone with no experience on it. And it's not and I always, like Jen, I always be very careful. I'm not degrading or demonizing in any way the investigator who's actually running this case. Very, very good and righteous people doing this, but they just don't have the reps yet to have the experience to mitigate all the pitfalls along the way. That's why you do have experienced people with this running these things, because they are very, very important for multiple things, not just investigatively, but optics wise, because you always have to have the support of the public. You have to have the support of everyone on these things, because that's where leads come from. So
yes, please remember to like the video out there. We're creeping up on 300 likes, so it'd be good if we can get there. Likes are free. Spank that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and say hello to the great flock of black sheep here, or the school of Pisces fishes, and say happy birthday to Julie, whose birthday is 420. Julie Bug. And what else do I have to say? I also go live 5 or 6 nights a week, a little bit after 10 p.m. Eastern, to talk about true crime and current events. Thank you very much, everyone, for all of your support so far as well. Shadow and I really appreciate it, and all the support helps me pay for Hootie snacks for Shadow the Night Owl here.
all those elements are important. Anyway.
Why do you think he put somebody on this case as the lead investigator that didn't have experience? At the end of the day, it's going to reflect negatively on him. Did he just not see that? Was he just completely blind? Or is it part of a hero type complex where I'm going to put somebody shitty as the lead, so when they screw up, in his mind, maybe he thought he could swoop in and save the day, even though that has not clearly happened at all?
I think it was twofold. I think one of the reasons, and the number one reason, was loyalty of that person. He wanted a yes man in there that was going to do as he was told. That's really the number one reason. And I think secondarily, he had no idea that this information would get out.
100%.
Your thoughts in the comment section and Substack and YouTube. We'd love for you to weigh in on where things are currently standing in this nightmare that is the Nancy Guthrie investigation.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss.
And you got it, Marina. Let's see here. And well, folks, that might be it for now. So it's happy birthday to Julie Bug, 420, by the way. Danielle's edibles are kicking in. Always a good time. Very celebratory of 420, I would say. Yes, you have a great night as well, Wendy. That was really all the Guthrie coverage there is. In terms of Jen Koffendorfer's video about Tomasso, she didn't really say anything at all. I mean, she just didn't say much. She didn't say much in his defense, nor against him either, but mostly in his defense, she was trying, but there really was just nothing substantive there, to be honest. Sunny Days, welcome. You have a great night as well, Autumn Elizabeth. Glad she got gifted a membership there, which is cool. You got it, KB. Happy to have you all here as well. I'm trying to set up some interviews for this upcoming week, too. Perfect timing, right, Danielle? The edible's kicking in, and it's about time to close it on down. You know, it's a damn good question, B. We will have to see what the new day has in store for us, because I really don't know. Hopefully, maybe something happens with the Hooker case. So maybe there's a development in that. Because if not that, maybe we'll go over Rex Heuermann. Maybe we'll go over some, I don't even know what. We're going to have to see. Celeste, the DV, whatever the hell his name is. How's the cognac going, Rooster? You would think so, B, but you never know. You never know. I mean, he's out of Dodge in Sacramento, but the Bahamas, America will extradite someone back to the Bahamas, so we'll see. Well, we might switch it up with some narcissism then, YT. because why not? So of the 322 people here, 31 of you got to like the video so we can get to 300. So DVD has to be arraigned tomorrow. Yeah, I know the least about that case. Rooster. He's waiting for the good stuff to start. We're going to leave him on ice. Yeah, I saw that, Christy, in Louisiana. It's a little hush-hush right now because what I always tell you about any mass shooting or shooting spree, depending on the gender and race of the perpetrator, certain sides are going to be more likely to bring it up, right? So if it's a white man, the Democrats will like that. But if it's a LGBTQ minority of sorts, then all of a sudden that's the Republicans' field day. And you'll see it every time. Once you see, you'll never be able to unsee. Thank you, Heather. I'm glad you love it here, Marina. Shadow and I enjoy the company. So little things that matter, Marina, right? And thank you to Miss Kim for modding. I think we saw song bits earlier too. I got to make sure I check up on Livin because she's had her, I guess, would you call that bloating problem? But whatever it is, I got to check it out. I hear you, YT. It is obnoxious. I agree. Hey there, Lisa. But it's also true, right, Heather? It is, depending on what it is, certain people will cover it in a certain way. It just is. And yeah, Kev Nanos would probably not resign. He'll probably force them to do the next election date, almost without a doubt. Jen from CNY. I was just saying, depending on the race, gender, and sexuality of a killer, certain sides are going to talk about it differently. There you go, Rooster. Shadow toasts you. Which man is that, Mace? It's sort of like that TikTok song. I caught Shadow dancing to that just like an Owl Comes Night Out at Night song on TikTok. The inappropriate tickety talk song for any of you who know it. You as well, Danielle. Shadow and I will see you tomorrow, no doubt. 272 likes. Got 28 people here of the 282 that didn't like yet. Surely. Hooty hoo. I should be determining the password B. Well, to put that one into consideration. 17. Thank you, Randizzle. Very good, Miss Kim, and very good, Jackie. $10 p.m. Yep, 1 a.m. where I am. Dashing through the snow. You have a great night as well, Tina. Oh, Randy got my hopes up with that typo. From 17 to 28. What a buzzkill. You sobered Shadow right up with that. Who would have thought, Danielle, Shadow and I would be cult leaders? I wouldn't have thought. But what do you know? What does life have in store for us? Me as a cult leader. Hooty hoo, a young B. How old is B, by the way? A young B underage drinking on the Arizona golf course, screaming hooty hoo. If she only knew where she would be. Well, I would say it would have to be both of us then. Oh, right by me then, in the old New Jersey golf course. So B, are you going to go recruit 25 members to like the video to get to 300? What kind of cult would we be if I didn't send you all out to recruit? Or what kind of cult would you be for Shadow to not recruit? Every time there's a hater, you can say in the comments, as Rooster correctly does, please make sure to like the video. Nothing would annoy them more. Oh, by the way, next time you see someone call me a narcissist in one of the comments on my shorts, say, oh, by the way, did you like the video? Oh, by the way, did you think about joining the cult? It'd be like Jehovah's Witnesses for the cult of Shadow. Yes, the Jehovah's Witnesses for the cult of Shadow are like a flock of black sheep. The flock of black sheep are like a Jehovah's Witness. Thank you, Nate Dogg. We'll get 100,000 signatures to like. That would be incredible, Snow Baby. Let's get on about Tomato. Well, I can tell you what my thoughts are about Tomato. There you go. Tomaso should not be accused, definitely. I can't just say he's definitely guilty. Just like you can't say that with Annie either. But that being said, you shouldn't also say they're just cleared either, as Jen was saying, and as Sheriff Nanas was saying. It's in between. Well, to put all that to a vote there, B, we'll see. There's Black Sheep Nation, Revenge the Black Sheep. There's all sorts of names. But that being said, like I said, until there's an arrest, until there's a suspect, you can't say anything about people being cleared. It's just not right. You're going to hurt the investigation at some point if you do that. The DA should have told them to not do that. And I'm assuming the DA isn't the one who told him to say they're cleared. I doubt they were. Perhaps B. Black Sheep Nation cult could be good. The cult of black sheep. Actually, that's probably even better. The cult of black sheep. We are joking though, Linda. It's the B's gonna refuse. The cult of black sheep, B. I like that. We're making fun of this other person, Linda. This woman with demon in her name was saying Danielle's in a cult because she follows me. I'm not sure where she was even getting that from, but that's what she was saying. Yes, it is. This is true, Rooster. I am for blame shifting in this context. In this instance, I do blame Danielle. Because that demon woman, she's like, you're in a cult, Danielle. And I'm thinking to myself as I read it all, where is she getting this from the cult from? It's wild. Just anyone who can be a follower of someone apparently is a cult. I mean, I called her a dick, and I'd call her a dick again. But I should have said, and by the way, like the video. That would have been a better thing to say. I gotta remind you to like the video and join the cult of black sheep. Yes, you did. Or as Mumford and Sons would say, as long as you didn't fuck it up this time. Yeah, sometimes you gotta throw it right in their face, Rooster. cultural personality. Missing Amish girl. Interesting, Randizzle. I'll have to check that one out. Thank you, Miss Kim. Do we have 21 more likes left in us of the 277 people that are still here? I would hope so. It'd be a damn shame to not get to 300 now. Should like the video if it gives you a chuckle when I called that person a dick. Or give the video a like if I should have said, make sure you like the video. I should have said, please be advised to spank the like button, please. That's what I should say to every hater ever again in a comment. Please remember to spank the like button. I think that's the best comeback there is, Rooster. Please remember to spank the like button. The next time there's a hater, please remember to spank the like button. Oh, male approval, eh? Yeah. Some male approval is better than others, isn't it, Rooster? I guess that is the thing. People are pushing on that gender divide these days, aren't they, Danielle? People try to, I've been seeing a lot of that. That's why I opened up in this video talking about that 62 million thing. There seems to be a concerted effort to push men and women apart at this point. And I'm not sure how I feel about it, because in some ways I think the side that's angry at men has a point. Yeah, there's plenty of predator dudes for sure. But then I think it goes too far with some people too. And they end up like hating all men. And I think if you get to a place where you hate all men, I don't know how good that is. Right, Dashing? Is it good to hate all men? There seems, and again, unless you're in certain social circles, you're not even going to see this. You're not going to see this man hate thing. But in some places, Instagram, TikTok, sometimes on Facebook, depending on the creators you follow, you're going to see it. You're going to see this like movement just pointing out, like, and you'll hear things like, always a man or whatever, things like that. There seems to be a push for it. And again, they would say to guys, well, any guys that don't call out these things are a problem. And I would say, well, look at me. What do I do all day on this channel when I talk about narcissism and the toxic behaviors? What am I doing? I'm empowering people, both men and women, to see through this stuff. And when we talk about true crime cases, what are we doing? We are observing, especially in the cases like Dr. Michael McKee, and maybe even in this Brian Hooker case too. You look at the red flags and say, okay, act accordingly. So I tried to do my part. Some people would say it's not good enough, probably. But, ultimately, I do not like the too far apart thing. I'm not a fan of. I think men and women are supposed to complement one another, and men and women's strengths and weaknesses are supposed to complement one another. That's how I see it, but that's almost like a controversial view now. Yeah, sometimes Rooster does not hit that like button until later. The cult of personality here, the cult of Shadow and Jared. SJ. Just saying. Jared and Shadow. Yes, Julie Bug's birthday tomorrow, 4/20. Oh my, Julie Bug spanked the like button so hard it left a mark. Okay, Boda, you have a good one. Make sure you spank the like button on your way out, please. Although she probably won't like it. But you can't make everybody happy. That's one thing I can teach you all too. No matter what you do, some people will not like you. You know, I don't even know yet, Chatty, because I don't have anyone scheduled. I've been trying to get people like Sinful. I've been speaking to her, but I haven't spoken to her recently. I was thinking about trying to get Marcella back on. Well, that very well might be, Danielle. That might be. There is some of that going on. When I speak honestly about that topic, yes, you are correct. Some people, and some men too, will not like me. Because, like, I don't go too far, which, again, to some people, they would think that's a problem. Yes, if you don't spank the like button, leave your DNA of choice on the like button. Yeah, sometimes sometimes the hardcore feminists don't like Shadow. No, I wouldn't think so, B. I wouldn't think so. Shadow doesn't like people like that here anyway. What I was saying was too far, Snow Baby, is when people wind up hating men, or the vice versa would be when men wind up hating women. That's when you've gone too far, in my opinion. And there's a fair amount of that right now, I would say. There's a fair amount of men that hate women, and there's a fair amount of women that hate men. And I think once you've gotten to that point, I feel like often there's healing to be done. If a woman hurts you as a man, no, not all women are going to be borderline and narcissistic women. And if you're a woman that was abused or whatever, no, not all the men will be. And like, I think the healthier we become, we find ourselves in the right places. How about that? And that doesn't mean necessarily we'll be in a romantic relationship. You got it, Chatty. Shadow and I really appreciate your support. Danielle says, T minus 14 likes needed. Can we get 14 likes out of the 253 people here, please? Ha! Rooster says, don't leave skid marks on the like button. Danielle says, I'd like to see her come in here, Mr. Rooster. That would be quite entertaining. Yes, she will not. You went too far for her, Rooster. You went too far for Danielle. I would agree with that, Dashing. I don't think it helps. That's Rooster's cognac talking. Yeah, there'll probably be a fair amount of smokers tomorrow. You'll smell the world. Get that little pungent skunk smell. You know, Danielle, this is a damn good question. I think I don't think about it usually. I agree with that, Christy. I definitely agree with that. A butt swipe is not okay. Or as Laura would say, front butt. Gotta watch out for that front butt hair. I think it might be the first time I've heard that. But it's true. B, can I trust you to recruit 12 people to get the like button hit? 12 people? Surely it can be done. Maybe I can talk about narcissism or other toxic behaviors. Or who should I have to invite back on the channel? It's almost back for Dr. Salerno to come back on the channel. How about my friend Kelly? Does anyone here know my friend Kelly? B, do you know my friend Kelly? Does Rand Dizzle know my friend Kelly or Victoria? Rooster might. Actually, I don't know if Rooster does. Ah, B. They're teasing me. That could be done. That can be done, Rooster. Nick Fuentes. Where's he coming from? I've listened to Nick Fuentes. I bet you, here's the thing about Nick Fuentes. There's probably a fair amount of lefties that would agree with him on a certain topic, but that might be the extent of it. Yeah, we'll have Danielle. You have a book. You have a book, Danielle, and you have exotic dancing experience. You have some good stories to tell. And not to mention your upbringing and survivor story. I think anyone can behave immaturely or have a toxic behavior, but that's much different than someone who's truly a narcissist and has narcissistic traits. Very different. The true traits, you can tell them by their antagonism, extreme disproportionate reactions, devaluing, belittling, gaslighting. It's just different. It's a different energy than someone who is just a little immature. Well, that's the thing about that, Rooster. To be young at heart is a great thing. Childlike as opposed to childish, right? Yeah, because B, those kinds of people, there's just no use even dealing with them. Like they're just so, they'll give you an emotional reaction that even if you don't act on it, you're going to feel it. It's icky. And just someone who's immature, that might be a little bit defensive. Yeah, it can be unpleasant, but it's not going to be the same level of unpleasant. Yeah, Danielle, I think you'd enjoy telling your story. It can be very therapeutic for people. I bet you B has an interesting story to tell too. Would B ever want to come up here? Be in front of the camera with Shadow and I? Let's go. 9 more likes. I think we got it. And age is certainly no indicator of someone's maturity. There can be 24-year-olds that are more mature than 50-year-olds. See that, Danielle? You'd have all sorts of support already. Paramount Tactical, Jared. I've heard of them, Dana, but what are they? Ah, the Desert Demon. That bitch. The Real McCoy says, Wizard, look at Daphne's case files video from today. Perpetrator got same tattoo and black glove on. Daphne's case files. I don't know who that is. Is this an AI channel? No, maybe not. See, it's 'cause I don't. You got these AI thumbnails. I don't like those. We'll see real quick what they're even saying about things.
He knows where Nancy is. Let's take a look at who he is as a person. Could Nancy actually be in a place that no one actually thought about checking? All that and more starting now. Well,
Where is it though? I don't want to look through all of this. Where is it? So, real McCoy, is it in this video or no? Huh. Okay, Danielle. It's up to you. On his Facebook. What does that mean? What do you mean she's on his Facebook? Who's on whose Facebook?
welcome to Daphne's Case Files. New details in the Nancy Guthrie case. All right.
This person saying that there's someone with the tattoo of the person, but I have no idea if it's accurate or not. People, that's the thing. People say things all the time, but it doesn't mean it's true.
Let's get started. We're going to check in on Luke Daly. I'm sure that you all remember this, right?
This is your first interview since you've been detained. What's your hope in putting your voice out there now that people will get from this interview?
For my personal interest, I would just say just not to go off speculation of everything you hear on the internet and kind of like the hive mind mentality that someone says something and then they just go off of it based on no evidence, no truth.
Many people
Whose pictures and whose posts? Luke Daly's?
have believed that you are the person on the surveillance video, the abductor, the masked person. Is that you?
It's not me. I don't see the resemblance of it looking like me, but absolutely not. I have nothing to do with this case.
Nothing to do with it. Do you have any idea who is involved in the abduction?
I don't. If I did, I would happily tell FBI, police, anything. I mean, I, like everyone else, just want Nancy to come home and be safe. But that being said, I have nothing
But real McCoy, at most, this is speculation, right?
to do with this case.
And this is Lucas Daly just a few weeks ago. So this clip that he did is obviously an animated photo from one of his photo booths here. And he says, and I'm going to leave out the bad words. He says, "You all wanted me so badly. F the news and F you sleuths." Let's see what his friends had to say down here. He said, "I don't know what's going on, homie, but you actually returned back. So I don't believe that every picture. Now, I don't think it's this guy. I don't. But why would he be posting himself on the internet like this? It's just really strange. Why
Who is
would-
this?
And you notice, you guys have posted those billboards for Nancy's disappearance, photos of himself. But one thing I did.
Let's be very clear. This is no one yet. And this is someone that is pure speculation that this person's saying this. Let's be very clear about that. There's just nothing verified or certain about this at all.
Notice, you guys, if you look over here underneath his eye, he's got one of those teardrop type tattoos. And you all know New Mexico. And we're going to look at this guy, that everybody is going to share this and talk about this guy.
So this is the post of the person that says she knows where Nancy's at. And so this is just her digging down this rabbit hole, I guess.
Let's go take a look at this guy. So this is his Facebook page here, and it shows what he wrote. We're going to look at his profile, and it says he lives in New Mexico. New Mexico. And that is one of the places where they have posted those billboards for Nancy's disappearance, photos of himself. But one thing I did notice, you guys, if you look over here underneath his eye, he's got one of those teardrop type tattoos. And you all know what those tattoos mean, right? You want to live somebody. Here is another picture. Now, I don't think it's this guy. I don't. But why would he be posting himself on the internet like this? It's just really strange. Ooh, that was not a good picture, you guys. I will have to cover that up. So it looks like here that he likes to get tattoos and maybe give tattoos as well. But what do you think here? Could this be the perp, or maybe, or just maybe, he could know where Nancy is? Now,
I mean, it's hard to know if this person's just attention seeking. I mean, if he did it, he's a fool to be saying that and calling attention to himself.
now this is a great photo here. It's a close up. Look at his upper lip.
That didn't look like anything real, McCoy. That's not the same tattoo. It's not the same tattoo. So it's not the same tattoo though.
As well. But what do you think here? Could this be the perp, or maybe, or just maybe, he could know where Nancy is?
I think people get too excited and they want it to be this because they want it to be the person who did it, but it's like, I don't know. I think being more questioning first is the right way. This person in this channel, they're throwing this out there. And they got to be careful doing this because now this person might get harassed because of what this content creator is doing. I don't recommend anyone who follows me to do this, by the way. I don't recommend anyone harassing this person.
Now, this is a great photo here. It's a close up. Look at his upper lip. It's kind of similar to our perps, and the mustache is kind of similar as well. Now, yes, it's hard to tell because our perpetrator had the mask on. So what do you think about this? So again, this is just a little bit of his background. Says he's from Bakersfield, California, which we just witnessed there, and that he lives in New Mexico. He has the second-degree burglary, arrested for stealing cars, DB, corporal abuse, strangulation, and damaging wireless communication devices. Drugs, loaded, and he's definitely been checked into, you guys. What do you think? So check this out. Could Nancy be in a place no one would think to look? Now, we know in the early days that they were checking Nancy's septic tank. And
I mean, it's the thing. So she's just trying to come to some conclusions. And I will say this. If that guy was the person on the porch, he's a complete moron for calling attention to himself. But I don't think it was him.
went on the Pima County website where it shows where everybody's septic tank is located in their yard. Now, why is this important? Let's watch this short clip.
Clearly, there is something happening over there. We don't know exactly the nature of it. What can you tell us from your vantage point?
Hi, Kevin. I can set the scene here for you. About an hour and a half ago, we had a sheriff's deputy come up, park in front of the home. That caught everyone's attention. Now, not too long ago, within the last 20 minutes or so, we saw an unmarked vehicle with law enforcement.
Yeah, there's a sleuth channel and there's Monk's Intrigue. What's the sleuth channel's name? I can't remember.
Drive up. The two spoke, they got back in their cars, and then we saw yet a third member of law enforcement walk up. 3 people walked to the back, 2 to 3 people walked to the back, and you can see them now. And they are what our drone team is describing to us. The Fox flight team is describing this as possibly a manhole. I heard Jonathan say that it could be some sort of water drainage. Either one of those is possible. We're not quite sure, but they've been poking around in there almost like they're.
By the way, please remember to like the video while you're still out there. Likes are free, so spank that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And say hello to the flock of black sheep in here too.
Looking for a sample of some sort. Looking into this area. We've been kept back just a bit, actually. Usually when they have some sort of activity here at the site of Nancy Guthrie's home, we're often pushed back. The media is pushed back so they can do their job. Clearly, they're not concerned about that right now because we've all been allowed to stay as law enforcement continues its work to the back.
All right. So I wanted to see that video just to see what that person was doing. That's the one, Pamela. I think we've seen them too. But I don't know. If that person is the person on the front porch, I don't think they are, but they would be an idiot to call attention to themselves like that. We can try Randizzle, but I just want to see what that video was interesting. It is interesting that person said they knew where Nancy was, but it can just be an attention seeker. You know, that could be an attention seeker. It could be anyone. No, that was a different person, Dana. That was a person that called into the show. That wasn't that person. And if it was that person, that didn't sound like that person at all. We were on that sleuth channel. And he was saying all sorts. He had a whole, but he was that person on that channel that called said their body parts could be in the backpack. That's when I lost faith in what he had to say. I was like, okay, sounds a little far-fetched, but it's possible. But then when he mentioned that 80% of her body could be in the backpack, that's when I lost it on him and I lost faith. Tomorrow night, Randizzle. Tomorrow night we'll be live again. But all right, everybody. I guess that's all I got for now. We got there, B. Yum, nom, nom, nom. Shadow loves it. So Autumn, Snow Baby, Randizzle, B, Miss Kim, Rooster, Dana, D and DD, and everyone, Popcorn, Mike. No Hype was missing. Happy birthday to Julie Bug. Marina, thanks for being here. Sunny and Heather, thanks for being here as well. Pamela, thanks for being here. Dashing, thanks for being here. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, don't worry. That she's looking at that from a Facebook post, though. That's not that guy. How does she know that's the same person who called? So that person who called that person wrote that on a Facebook post. There could be more than one person saying that they know where she is, right? There's a person that called that said it was his brother. Did that person sound like that person's brother? I don't think so. Did anyone check that lake that they talked about? If they did, no one heard anything about it. And Dana, did they find anything at the lake? As far as we know, they didn't, right? I mean, did anyone even check? I couldn't tell you. But the bottom line is I haven't heard anything about it since. And I'm sure if there was something there, we would hear it, wouldn't we? If they found Nancy's body, that would be pretty big news. All right, Dana, you have a good night, everybody. Yes, that's what I thought, Real McCoy. I thought it was someone different. But we'll have to see. Lots of theories out there. We'll have to see what comes to fruition. So, all right, everybody, thanks for all the support, and I'll be back again tomorrow. Thanks again for modding, Miss Kim.